Unbelievable. Unbelievable. When you consider the difference that, like, what, a week makes? Not even that? 5 days? It is perfect. And when I say perfect, I mean capital P, capital E, capital R, capital F, capital E, capital C, capital T. I was the Allisonville Elementary School spelling bee runner-up in 1984, and I proved it right there by spelling perfect. And if you had to define the word, you would say the weather for opening day of the great Indiana State Fair, because it is absolutely spectacular. It is, I don't even know, I haven't looked, but I'm going to say 72, breezy, not a cloud in the sky, no humidity. Eddie, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you've ever been to San Diego, California, it's like this 363 days a year in San Diego.
It's also like
this,
that in
literally,
Seattle.
People are walking around here. It's like that in Seattle between, now here's the trick, though. If you're in Seattle, actually right now, perfect time to be in Seattle.
Yes,
but you got 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You got 6 weeks to enjoy it, and then they turn the faucet on. And the faucet kind of has a leak, and it's not a full rush of water, but there's just a mist. So that is not a myth. There is a mist. But it is absolutely gorgeous here, and it is awesome to be here opening day for the Indiana State Fair, and at what has become a tradition, really, here at the Dairy Bar, just in front. It's lunchtime, so people are lined up already for their grilled cheese, for their milkshakes, for their milk, for their cheese sticks. They have, Eddie Garrison, a special milkshake that they do each and every year. Mm-hmm. Would you like to guess the special flavor for this year's milkshake?
Well, I already know it.
Go ahead.
Key lime pie?
That is correct. The key lime pie milkshake. And listen, I had the key lime pie milkshake at the Fastest Rookie Luncheon back in May. They had a preview of it. And the key lime, it's not overly tart. It's subtle, but it's there. And it's spectacular, as is everything at the Dairy Bar, which is one of the great traditions here at the State Fair. And this is what I love most about coming out to the fair. The vast majority of people that are walking around, especially on opening day, are, a lot of times it's 4-H kids and kids from areas around the state of Indiana. And many of Indianapolis, so when they walk by, they're like, who is the idiot in the fan tent, in the big tent, which I love, right, which is cool. And then you get people, of course, listeners in the area. If you are out here today, be sure to stop by and say hi, as we have plenty to talk about. And a lot of what we will talk about, a lot of what we'll focus on today, Kevin Bowen going to join us at 2 o'clock today, and we will get into this. And that is that last night, and I think last night was pretty cool because, it really was, there were a lot of things that happened last night at Colts camp and at Colts practice. To have the night practice, to have the light show afterwards, the fireworks, and dare I say it because it is so cliche, but they did fireworks after the show, but there were some fireworks on the field as well. And look, I thought about this on the way in. I thought about this last night as I was kind of recapping the camp itself. And that is the fact that I do think that and you've heard me say this, I say this a lot. I think sometimes we overlook things, or I'm sorry, we overanalyze what we're looking at, I guess I should say. Because to me, it's always difficult to tell. Did A.D. Mitchell have a spectacular game yesterday, or did A.D. Mitchell take advantage of a banged-up secondary? No Jalen Jones, no Juju Brents. You're going with guys that, does that mean that they are going to be Sunday players that they're lining up against? You just don't know that. But what I was thinking about was, and I roll my eyes as much as anybody, when you see the mass, tweets and posts and reports of like incredible one-handed catch from Tyler Warren across the middle, absolutely amazing. And there's also part of you that's like, that's awesome, but then why was the ball thrown 5 feet over his head? I'm glad he made up for it. If you were a cynic, which at times I am. And you see it all around the league. I mean, if you're on social media, if you're looking at, any of the websites or whatever team that you root for, you see it all, right? You see the people that are posting the stuff of like unbelievable performance, great little jukey move from the running back such and such, and you're like, this guy's never going to make the squad. People get excited over stuff that you're like, it's training camp. How excited can we get? But despite, or as maybe even the older version of me, or younger version, whichever way you want to look at it, would have been cynical about that, I have to look at it and say to myself, but you would rather see that than not, right? If we're going to talk about the fact that Anthony Richardson just enjoyed his finest day of training camp as a professional quarterback, and maybe that's a little overstating it, but certainly in terms of this year's camp, it seems that way. If we're going to state that, if we're going to praise him, if we're going to celebrate the fact that he looked precise, that he made the right decisions, that he did not have a high number or percentage of overthrows or in the dirt, that his ball looked like it had good velocity, if we're going to talk about all those things, then we have to take it with the grain of salt, the fact it's practice. But I'd rather talk about that than still be talking about whether or not he's ever going to get it. And yes, we don't know yet because it's practice. And yes, it's not a live defense that he's seeing, and it's not all the arrows that are going through in a game. But it's at least a first step for this year. And what may be, even though Chris Ballard, I think, would say elsewise, it may be the last year that he gets to really look at this before you have to take a long, hard look at it. And he's gotten a lot of time, no question about it. But having said all of that, Eddie, I will ask you this. I think you made an interesting point when we talked earlier. And that is, I keep going back to what, and I did say, and I did feel like Daniel Jones was going to be the day one starter. It just felt like that's how inevitably this was going to play out when you saw that they signed Daniel Jones. But now that Jones has been in there, and now that he has been not terrible, but doesn't blow you away by any stretch, and you see Richardson, who's been not blowing you away, but having the right strides, more so than not. When you look at it, you made the point, Eddie, and I think it's a good one, that you have to weigh into what they have already said about Anthony Richardson that kind of gives you a glimpse as to which way they may be leaning with this.
Yes, Jake, and we always take everything that Chris Ballard or Shane Steichen says with a grain of salt, but then we always come back to it after the fact and we're like, well, Chris Ballard told us that. And when he met with the media on report day of training camp, he was like, hey, I don't think it was that big of a deal that Anthony missed whatever it was, 5 or 6 practices during OTAs, and they're going to continue giving each of these quarterbacks 50% of the reps with the starters and with the second unit. So far, they've stayed true to that. And I think Shane Steichen put it best, Jake, after practice last night. He just said everything right now with Anthony Richardson is cleaner, and he's playing a lot more consistent out there on the practice field, making good decisions with the football. And those are the types of things you want to hear from Shane Steichen, because those are the inconsistencies that he had in training camp that Steichen and Ballard have talked about that they want to see him display in practice in order for him to take that quarterback one spot and push off Daniel Jones from taking it from him.
And the fact that they were vocal about not being overly concerned by him missing OTA and being set a step back, and that in fact they were both at the same starting point, I think is pretty big when you look at the quarterback position. Plenty to talk about with it over the course of today, which we will do. But joining us now, because we are at the American Dairy Association of Indiana Dairy Bar here at the Indiana State Fair opening day. They got grilled cheese sandwiches, they've got milkshakes, they've got milk. Of course, milk is also presented to the winner of the Indy 500. Winners drink milk. And I am kicking myself. I am so angry at myself because Brooke Williams, and I'm going to guess on the title here, Brooke, you ready? Managing Director of Communications and Vice President, American Dairy Association of Indiana.
That's a really great title, just not mine.
Is that close?
It's Director of Communications.
Managing Director of Communications, right?
You were close.
Do you manage the communications?
I do manage.
Do you manage the director?
I am the director.
I know, and you manage your schedule, right? So you're the manager of the Director of Communications.
I like it.
So you're
I'll
the
file
Managing
it.
Director of Communications.
Yes.
Director of Communications for the American Dairy Association of Indiana. It could not be a more perfect day to be here.
I know. You've seen all kind of weather here at the State Fair when you've been here, and this is by far the best we've had.
Let's get right to this because people want to know this.
Go.
I want to know.
Okay.
I want to know the special menu items that we have for this year's fair. Do you have on cow print shoes?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm mad at myself. I have a fabulous shirt that says it is the Dairy Bar on it, and do you ever have those clothing items that you see it all the time and then like you're looking for it and you're like, where in the world did it go?
Yes.
But I have this one, which is
you
fabulous.
You're representing
of course.
the best refueling beverage, chocolate milk.
It is. I don't know if you know this or not, but chocolate milk has as much protein as a hard-boiled egg, right?
Yep.
It has as much potassium as a banana, right?
Yep.
It has as much vitamin A as, a cup of spinach?
I think that's right.
Yeah. And then obviously you get everything that you need to refuel. And I'm wearing exactly that from the mini marathon this year. But let's get to the menu items that are here this year.
Yeah, so this year we have the key lime pie milkshake.
Love it.
Thank you. And then the smoked Gouda Q grilled cheese, which is smoked Gouda, cheddar cheese, barbecue sauce on Texas toast.
Really? Back in my cigar days, smoked Gouda Q was. I don't know if you knew that or not. Okay, so and then what typically is the most popular item on the menu?
Ooh, so we sell every year about 70,000 milkshakes. The top seller is typically chocolate. Last year, chocolate was actually beat by the blueberry milkshake.
Really?
Yeah.
That was last year's specialty item, right?
It was last year's, yep. And then, grilled cheese. I feel like a standard visit to the dairy bar, you're going to get your grilled cheese, you're going to get your milkshake for $10 total. It's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And, the other thing that's fun, I don't know if people realize this, but because this is the Indiana State Fair, and I've seen this, when you go inside the dairy bar, I think it is always cool that typically, more often than not, the person who's serving you, taking your money, making the sandwich, whatever, usually groups that are connected to the state of Indiana and a lot of high school groups, right?
Yeah, today is Lincoln Athletics. So you're going to get all different athletes inside of there running the 10 windows. The dairy bar could not run.
Cambridge City, Lincoln?
That's right.
When I worked the dairy bar last year,
that's who you're with.
Do they ever leave here?
No,
because they were here last year when I was working.
It's a tradition. Right? They come back every year. But we couldn't run the dairy bar without the support of the volunteer groups that are inside serving the food. And of course, the dairy bar represents the almost 700 dairy farm families in the state of Indiana. All the products inside of there are going to be local, especially the milkshakes, hand-dipped ice cream, Hoosier custard, cheese.
Cambridge City is about, an hour and 20 minutes or so? That's a long commute from the barn back here where the kids live, getting ready for, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're here all year long in the dairy bar. Just commute back and forth. Yeah. But no, this is kind of the epicenter of the fair itself, and it is fun to see the number of people that come through. And even today, it feels to me, Brooke, like a lot of the people today are, in fact, those groups from around the state as opposed to just central Indiana. Yeah,
you never know what's going to be going on at the Indiana State Fair anyway, but today being band day, it's the opening day, beautiful weather. The lines are long at the dairy bar. It's what we like to see each and every year. It's about the community supporting dairy farmers, and that's the best part about it.
By the way, Eddie, since today is band day, you know what band I asked around to see if they're here?
The Proclaimers.
I think Eddie. The Proclaimers are a lot like the Cambridge City kids. They walk 500 miles just to be here. No, Oasis. I was going to see if Oasis is here. They're still overseas, though. But I'm starting to contemplate going to see them in Hollywood if anybody wants to go to the Rose Bowl with me. Not Hollywood, but the Rose Bowl if anybody wants to go. But I digress. Brooke, let's talk about the milk tradition. I know that everybody knows it for the 500. It's obviously one of my favorites. This year was, for Alex Pillow. Mm-hmm. Alex Pillow winning the race, that was obviously his first time. I'm always curious how the drivers react and how receptive they are to the milk tradition.
Alex Pillow was great for many reasons. He selected whole milk, which our dairy farmers always like to see. He had a great drink of milk, but also this year was the first year there was a couple drivers that had requested, if they want, to have a milk bottle for their babies or their kids, and it was a very sweet moment to see his little girl drinking milk alongside with him and his wife and his dad, I believe. So
the other thing, and I go back to, I always tell this story. You've heard me tell it 100 times, so I apologize, but the story that I always tell on how the tradition where it began of the dumping of the milk.
Yes.
That was Elio Castroneves was the first to do that, but it really took off when Dan Weldon won the race and did it, and somebody got a picture, and it was like a perfect symmetrical the way it went over him.
Yep.
And thus the tradition began of the dumping of the milk. And I know and there are traditionalists that are like, come on, man, just drink the milk. Alex Pillow broke the tradition, and you guys appreciated that.
Yeah, it was neat. What's cool, though, what I didn't know until somebody sent us a picture, because I have not been able to go yet, is at the IMS Museum, some helmets of previous IndyCar winners. And on the helmets, you can see the milk residue still on the helmet.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're really cool. And so you see some of the previous winners who really went for that milk pour. Like they have Joseph's from his first win, and then they have Joseph's from the second, because obviously the second year he just did a traditional drink. He didn't pour it over him, but it's cool to go and look at.
So because they throw it everywhere,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I've always wondered about that, though, just in terms of the fire suit itself. How long does it before they clean the fire suit?
I know, yeah. That is one title I do not have.
How do they pick I mean, I know this, but for our listeners, how do they select where the milk comes from that goes to the Indy 500 and who the dairy farmer is?
The dairy farmer is voted on by our board and a milk committee, a selection committee. You have to be an Indiana dairy farmer, of course. Where the milk comes from, that is the secret that is never told, because we want it to represent all Indiana dairy farmers. So that's why we never say it comes from this specific farm. And really, we don't know, because the thing about milk is that it never touches human hands. It goes right from a cow into a truck to a processing plant, and so it would be very difficult to like capture milk from a farm anymore.
You know, I've always thought this, and this is different than milk, but one of the things I've talked about, one of my great conspiracy theories here, you ever notice when you're at the gas station and there's the gas truck that's putting the gas in the ground? Mm-hmm. So you're paying for the high premium one, but it's only one truck. Mm-hmm. I think that's a scam. The same truck, and they pretend like different. I don't believe that at all. Mm-hmm. Like, you can tell, if you have whole milk, you can tell it's not skim milk.
That's true, yeah.
I think this gas is all the same. Who would know the difference?
I don't know. But I will tell you.
Can you talk to the manager or director of communications of the petroleum division and find out?
But I will tell you, on race day, I know that there are actually 3 different types of milk in that
I believe
cooler.
that.
Yeah.
Because each year, the drivers select in advance what milk they want.
Yes.
And then you guys obviously look that up. Now, do you what is the most common requested? I know I should know.
It's whole milk. Yeah, by far. It was not always that way. There was a time where 2% and skim were very popular.
Do you think it's for the photo because they realize that the white is so much richer in the photos?
I think it's that. You just have some drivers that are very passionate about whole milk, and really they always say they're sticking to the tradition, which started with buttermilk, but that's going to be the closest to them in their eyes of the buttermilk would be a whole milk. So I think it's just swaying that way.
Indiana State Fair is where we are. It is opening day today here. Last night, Colts' first night practice. Anthony Richardson did play well. There were others that did as well. We will get into that, including those that were lined up against him. It wasn't that Daniel Jones played poorly. It was that Richardson probably did look a little bit more in rhythm of the two yesterday. A.D. Mitchell had some catches yesterday. I think there probably was some thought that he was slow a little bit after a good start to the week, but we'll get into all of that. Kevin Bowen going to join us 2 o'clock today. We are here with Brooke Williams, the Director of Communications.
That's right.
For the American Dairy Association of Indiana at the Dairy Bar. So this particular week or 2 weeks for you, I would imagine this is like the month of May, for example, for Alex Palou or others, and the fact that this is your nonstop time, right? How long? The fair goes until when? August
17th, and we are open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day except Mondays.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then so every day except Mondays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Dumb question. Does the menu change throughout the course of the day? Are there items that you get earlier in the day that are not available at night, or is it the same for 12 hours?
It is the same menu. If you come at 8 a.m., we do serve breakfast sandwiches, but at 9 a.m., menu is the same.
When you go on vacation, do you find that it doesn't matter what time of day you're eating? Like there are no rules when it comes to diet during time of day on vacations, especially if you're out of the country. Have you noticed this?
Yes.
Like, do you judge if you're in an airport and somebody's sitting at a bar and it's 6:30 a.m. waiting for a flight? Do you judge that, or do you think to yourself, that guy just flew in from Belgium and thinks it's noon?
Yeah, I mean, there's no judgment, especially at the State Fair. People are literally having grilled cheese and milkshakes at 9 a.m. Like, all rules are out the window. Yeah.
That's the whole thing when you come to the fair, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of whole thing, whole milk. Be sure to get it. And you can get whole milk while you're here, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, Brooke, we appreciate it as always. I'll pop in and get myself a grilled cheese at some point and a key lime milkshake, which is the specialty
I know,
as well.
and we don't have your Swiss on rye. Thank you for not bringing that up. I thought that was going to be a real point of contention, but we'll just leave it there.
Well, I had a therapy last night,
Good.
and I've got enough, and that came up, just so you know. But believe me, that's not the only thing that came up, by the way. All right, good to see you as always.
Thanks
Appreciate
for being
it.
here.
And again, Kevin and Bowen going to join us 2 o'clock today. Let's get back into the conversation. Brooke, hopefully at some point, and we'll bring out a key lime pie milkshake. Brooke will also tell you, she will vouch for, she took off, but Eddie, she will vouch for me, that I make when I'm serving in the dairy bar, I am literally the Michelangelo of milkshake sculptures. Brooke, would you agree to that?
Yes.
Yeah, see, she knows. I like literally I stack them. They're brilliant. My buddy Tom Trial, just look at this. It's race day here at the Indiana State Fair. My buddy Tom Trial just walked by as well, who I used to work with at WRTV. That's the best thing about the fair. It literally is just like coming out and seeing friends, seeing family, seeing people throughout the state of Indiana. Also, Fever, by the way, we will discuss with Pat Boylan coming up later today. Eddie, don't look now, but you are the pre- and post-game host of the Indiana Fever on the radio broadcast. But this is a team that I realize without Caitlin Clark, you are always curious where they stand. The reality is that they're starting to come into form just a little bit here. But you also have that curveball of exactly how they're going to play when Caitlin Clark returns. But you would take it the way they're playing right now versus the alternative with her out.
Oh, absolutely, Jake. I mean, they're 6-2 in their last 8 games, and for 5 of those, Caitlin Clark has not been on the floor. She'll miss her 6th game with that right quad injury tonight. We still don't know really on the timetable. You talked with Stephanie White earlier in the week, and she made mention that they have to get on the practice floor a couple of times, and Caitlin has to practice multiple times in order to get back into the flow of things. And just with where the schedule is at right now, they have 5 games and a day off in between each of these games. They're on the West Coast for the first of 4 tonight. They go to Dallas, and then they're on the West Coast actually technically for 3 games. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Ari McDonald comes up big for them in their game 2 nights ago. Aaliyah Boston was terrific in the 4th quarter. And it just kind of feels like, Jake, and Stephanie White was talking about this in camp and whatnot, that she felt like the team would start coming together around the All-Star break or after the All-Star break, and so far, that looks like it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, the schedule itself, as we talked about, that is intriguing for them is the fact that they play, and Stephanie White talked about this, I think the 17th of August, so just over 2 weeks from now, is when they finally get like a 5-day reprieve. But up to that point, it is essentially a game either every other day or every 3rd day. And because of the fact that I think they want to get just kind of a multiple, consistent day practice run to reacclimate her, so to speak, and get her up to speed as well, because I know that sounds crazy when you are talking about elite-level athletes, but nonetheless, when you are losing time out there, it takes a while to get your legs, your wind back underneath you. But just the acclimation period itself, Eddie, it would not surprise me, because when I threw that to Stephanie White when she was on earlier this week, I kind of expected that she would say, yeah, we're certainly hoping to have Caitlin Clark back before then. But when I threw that August 17th date, it was interesting that Stephanie White didn't necessarily push back on that. And rather, I'm not saying that she was saying in agreement that that's what the game plan was, but she didn't necessarily sound like somebody that was an outlandish stretch of it going that far in before they bring her back. Is that how you also heard it?
Yeah, that's how I also heard it, Jake. And when you look at the upcoming schedule, it's very favorable for the Indiana Fever, and this is where they have to take care of business. They're in Dallas tonight, one of the bottom teams in the WNBA. They have the 3rd worst record. They have Seattle on the road. Los Angeles has played better, even though they are 4th in terms from the bottom of the WNBA standings, and they wrap up that West Coast trip next Thursday. So it's 4 games in 6 days for the Indiana Fever. Then they come home. They take on the Chicago Sky, who have been utterly dreadful the last 2 weeks. And they have the Dallas Wings again, and then Washington and Connecticut. So they have a very, very favorable schedule. And that day you're looking at, Jake, August 22nd, they host the Minnesota Lynx. That is after 5 days off after they play on the 17th at Connecticut against the Sun. So that would be an ideal opponent for Indiana to get Caitlin Clark back because of how good Minnesota has been this season.
When we return to the Indiana State Fair, this is obviously, each time you come to the fair and they got the people mover moving overhead. You've got, obviously, the kids, 4-H kids that are coming out and displaying what they've worked hard on. You have artwork that's on display. This year's theme for the Indiana State Fair, each day is a different theme. Today's theme, I should say, is Be Prepared. And when it comes to the season, you want to make sure that you are prepared. And for a lot of people, the State Fair is kind of a return to Indianapolis. Maybe they live elsewhere. Maybe they live, for example, Dave Sellers, who is here doing our promotions. His great founded Pittsburgh, Indiana, for example. So, they come home or a visit once again to Indianapolis when they come to the State Fair, I should say. There is a player out there that, in fact, if the Colts were to be prepared at a certain position and sign him in the last year of a 3-year deal that he has, it would cost him $15.5 million. But it could bolster a position that potentially is of need, and it would also be a homecoming. But how realistic would it be, and would it be the right move? I'll tell you who, and we'll discuss next when we return to the Indiana State Fair at the Dairy Bar here, right along the main stretch at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. It's Query & Company, a Friday edition on The Fan. All right, it's official. I've got the, see if I can put it on the camera here where you can see it. See that, Eddie? Can you see it on the YouTube camera?
Is that the key lime pie milkshake?
It is, buddy.
How's it taste?
Like a subtle key lime pie. It's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. You know who else is outstanding and has been for really the totality of his NFL career? And he is a receiver that is both dynamic in yards after catch. I think he's a physical receiver. He brings a lot to the table. And entering the final year of a 3-year deal with the Washington Commanders that will pay him $15.5 million this season. But Terry McLaurin, the former Cathedral star, has apparently requested a trade. Now, is he requesting a trade because he truly is over it and wants to move on? Or is he requesting a trade as a negotiating ploy to get more money out of what Washington may offer to him? Those are questions that you absolutely have to take into mind and consideration. But there are certain things that you look, and all of us, where you impulse buy something and you don't need it, and you know you don't need it. But you're like, man, I don't know that I'll ever have this opportunity again. You know, you say to somebody, that's a cool sweatshirt. Like, yeah, weirdest thing. I was at the store, and it was actually in the middle of July, and it was hot. I didn't need the sweatshirt, but it's normally a $120 sweatshirt, and because it was hot outside and they were doing a clearance sale, I got it for $40. I couldn't pass on it. I had to get it. And it feels to me a little bit like, and I honestly do not know, we'll talk to Kevin Bowen about this when he joins us, just how realistic Chris Ballard of the Colts would even be about the thought of acquiring Terry McLaurin. And my personal feeling on it is probably not very, because it's not a position of need at all. 15.5 for what he brings to the table is, that's 15.5 is a lot of money, but that's really kind of a value for what he does bring to the table. But if you are bringing in Terry, whoever trades for him, assuming that is going to happen. And again, this may be a ploy and he ends up getting a massive deal from Washington. We've seen that before as well. But if someone were to trade for Terry McLaurin, then what they need to do, obviously, is you would not trade for that guy unless one of two things was the case. Number one, if you were a player away this year and you got to push all in. And the Colts have made that mistake before. Now, totally different scenario and contribution level. But when they went and got Andre Johnson, Andre Johnson was a guy that everybody thought, oh, my gosh, this is massive. They went out and they signed Frank Gore and Andre Johnson. And the Colts right then, that was when, Griggs is wheeling and dealing, backing up the Brinks truck. And with that, Andre Johnson got here, and you're like, oh, my gosh, this guy fell off a cliff. Now, McLaurin is not there, but he is 30 years old. And if you're getting him, you are getting him either A, because you feel he is the last piece for your team that puts you over the top, and that's not the case with the Colts. The Colts are not that player away. They're just not. You can say they are, but they're not. The other thing is then if you were to go to get him, then you go and get him with the understanding that you are going to re-sign him. And if he were to come here, because there are teams that could use him for a one-year rental, so to speak. And Buffalo or Detroit, that need a weapon. It's like, you know what, that'll put us right over the top. That is not the case with the Colts. So then if you are the Colts or you are Tampa or you New Orleans or somebody that's going out and getting him because here is a dynamic player that can change the trajectory of your franchise, you're only going to do that. You're not going to, what good is that going to do you for this year if you're not going to be a competing team? So therefore, you have to get him to re-sign him. And then you get into the finagling of money that I don't think Indianapolis is in the position for, because number one, they do have a decent receiver room. Not like eye-popping, but Pittman is a very good player. We saw what he was able to do a year ago while dinged up for that matter, and without a lot of stretch around him to kind of ease things up, like for example, now what you're going to get with Warren across the middle and the softening of defenses in areas that Pittman is effective. And they have, if A.D. Mitchell is able to get going and find some footing this year, you have not one but two guys that can get out behind the defense, and you have Josh Downs that can create in space for you. So I don't know that there's really the need for McLaurin, but I also understand that he might be that super high-grade thing that you want because it was the bargain buy that you bought in July. I get it. Or in this case, August. I totally get it. But to me, it doesn't. It would not. I wouldn't hate it if they went out and got him. But Eddie, you tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think that is one that. Sure, he's a great player. I don't think he's a great player. That if he were not a native of Indianapolis, I don't know that we're having the discussion.
That's a very solid point, Jake. Like if he does not go to Cathedral High School, I don't think we're having this discussion. But another aspect of McLaurin that is like just off the field is that you hear about the things like Alex Smith said when Alex Smith was with Washington and he was in the early stages of his career, and other teammates like Bobby Wagner currently at Washington and other guys that have played with McLaurin, is that his leadership is something that everyone values in the locker room and everyone listens when he speaks because he's just a very humble guy. He goes out there, he puts in the work, and he holds people accountable. And knowing Chris Ballard, that's something that he values, and potentially you have to sniff around to see what it would cost. Like, would you trade Alec Pierce if let's say Chris Ballard calls up Washington and they're like, let's say Alec Pierce in the third or Alec Pierce in the fourth round pick. Are you pulling the trigger? Because you would have to pay McLaurin because he's wanting $30 million a year.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think Washington does that? Unless Washington knows they're getting nothing for him, does Washington trade McLaurin for you'd get the pick, but you get Alec Pierce back, who's a good player, but Alec Pierce is also in a contract here. So now So Washington then runs the risk of losing McLaurin for simply, in the long term, a fifth rounder. I think he's a guy. I think he is an upper echelon receiver. He's in the top quartile of the top quartile, and that's rare air. And for that reason, I think he's a guy that you would have to throw. You would think that a second probably and a fifth and a player would be the starting point, don't you think?
Sure.
Marshall Faulk, and I know that we're talking about a quarter century ago, but Marshall Faulk in his prime. Marshall Faulk had 2 MVP seasons left in him and 2 Super Bowl runs with St. Louis, and St. Louis was able to get him then for a second and fifth rounder. So, maybe McLaurin, maybe you're right. Maybe McLaurin does but I think you'd have to throw in a second. If Pierce is thrown in, then maybe, but I think we forget how much teams are hesitant to take guys that have mileage on the tires. That's the Falk thing in the 2nd and 5. But it does feel to me like if you were going to throw Pierce in, just because he contractually is in the same spot, you would have to throw probably a fifth and then also a second, because they would be weary of losing Pierce at the end of the year.
Well,
Alec Pierce may have a good year for the Colts. And
go ahead,
Eddie.
I was going to say, I think that Pierce replicates some of the things that McLaurin does in terms of being able to win down the field, and it's going to save Washington some money because they're already got to be in this mindset. And I know it's only year 2 for Jay Daniels, and he's got 3 more years of team control, but they've got to look at areas in which they can save some money against the cap to try to continue to build around Jay Daniels while he's on that rookie contract. And I just feel like if Pierce is going to, get $20 million around there on the open market, it saves them anywhere from $8 to $12 million a year if they decide to take on Pierce instead of somebody else. And Kevin Bowen mentioned this after the draft and a couple of different times, that he's heard that the Colts got offered a 2nd-round pick for Alec Pierce, so his skill set is valued across the league. And the Colts elected to keep him instead of taking back a 2nd-round pick. And I'd have to assume that if Washington is real and does start entertaining offers for Terry McLaurin, they're going to be looking for somebody that can replace Pierce replace McLaurin in that way. And I think Pierce would be able to do that.
I think Pierce, it's interesting when you talk about Alec Pierce. I think his skill set is respected around the league because I think there probably are a lot of football people that, understand that Alec Pierce has been playing that position with inconsistent quarterback play, and therefore there is more there than what the numbers would show. That has to be, I would think, has to be considered within the equation of kind of the value or the assessment of Alec Pierce. But we'll see what happens. There's another guy, actually, that could be hitting the market or at least the preliminary stages. This is what happens at this point in training camps, right? Is like guys start determining whether they're happy, unhappy, contract negotiations, contract stall, power plays take place, and there is one elsewhere in the NFL as well that is a position that the Colts have been chasing and chasing and chasing. And it would seemingly be one that you would think maybe that would be help. But if last night's any indication, it might not be a position that Indianapolis has to look outside of 465 to get filled because they might have it internally. I'll tell you who that player is, and we'll discuss that as well as we return here to the great Indiana State Fair right along the Midway. We're right in front of the Dairy Bar from the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Dave and Sienna are here. They got giveaways just to my left. People are walking past. You can hear the tram run past. It is a glorious and beautiful day here to be at the fair. So if you're planning on coming out, we would love to see you between now and 3 o'clock. We'll come back and I will tell you what two players perhaps made the interest level in a guy that may be available waned a little bit for the Colts because they might have help in-house. We'll explain next. We return to Query & Company here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. I love, by the way, one of the things I've learned, and it's taken me a while to learn this, And there's a player that I think is a really good player that could be available in the NFL, but he plays a position that the Colts may in-house have some glimpses of life, and I'll get to that in just a second. But one of the things that I've learned is that this is just for me, but I'll share it nonetheless. I think sometimes we get caught up in, and we get like in this vat sometimes of the now. What's going on that day? What's going on the next day? Stresses at work. You know, things like that. For all of us, right? Things that have us down, things that upset you, whatever it might be. And one of the things that I've found is like a real key is to make sure that there's a benchmark every couple of weeks and like a tradition that you do each year. Like, for example, I'm going on the 13th. I've made mention of it a million times. I mean, the White Sox are terrible. They're terrible. I'm not necessarily a White Sox fan. But a number of years ago, I just one day said, you know what, let's just find a random ball club to go to an afternoon day game in the middle of the week and just go and have a hot dog and have a beer and watch baseball and soak in like the summertime or the late summer, the fade of summer. And so we picked the White Sox, and we went to a White Sox game, and that's become a tradition. Every August, I go to a White Sox game. They're terrible, but it's fun because it's like our tradition. And I think it's important to have like every 2 to 4 weeks something that you just do each year to motivate yourself to like look forward to it, so that you're not getting caught up in like the long-term picture, and rather you're just finding, you know, every couple of weeks something, a payoff to just keep going towards and moving towards, to keep things moving and interesting. Because life sometimes can get, you know, the day-to-day, it can bug it out a little bit. And one of those for me has always been the State Fair since I was a kid. And, you know, it's interesting now because the Indiana State Fair, there are a lot of kids that are already back at school. This always kind of meant the end of the wind down of summer for me as a kid. But I love everything about it. I got to come. I've got to get an ear of corn. I've got to do the little peek. I've got to walk through the way. I usually try to go through and look. I know people, their stuff being displayed at the fair. But, you know, the little traditions like that. Now, Eddie Garrison, I would like to know, when you come to the great Indiana State Fair, your traditions, your food, your dietary needs, aside from the key lime pie milkshake at the dairy bar, are what?
So I always have an ear of corn. That is the first thing I always get. Now, in terms of like an actual,
of course,
you know,
right?
like a sandwich or something along those lines, it's all contingent upon the weather. Because if it's a hot day out there, I save the milkshake for the end, just because I don't want to be walking around after drinking milk like that, because, you know, sometimes you get bubble guts after, let's face it, when it gets all hot and steamy like that. So what I get after the ear of corn is largely dependent upon how hot it is outside. Like today, I'd go over, I'd probably get a grilled cheese and a milkshake.
Oh, it's perfect. I mean, it's just perfect for the grilled cheese, right? Perfect, all of it. So the big news out of NFL training camp, not involving Terry McLaurin, not involving the fact that last night Anthony Richardson had a good day. From a local standpoint, there were two other players that apparently last night had good moments. And one of them is Liatu Latu, who, you know, a year ago, he was the best pass rusher in the draft coming in, according to Chris Ballard. He was the first defensive player taken off the board for the Colts. And in addition to that, he is a player that was fulfilling a need or a void for Indianapolis in the fact that they have struggled in getting to the quarterback with consistency since the departure, obviously, of Freeney and Mathis. And they've had guys that have come in and, you know, had moments or glimpses, but not with any consistency. And Micah Parsons in Dallas, 26 years old, a two-time All-Pro player, a defensive rookie of the year. I mean, elite-level pass rusher. He's got just shy of 53 sacks in his career. And apparently now things are bubbling over. I don't know, maybe Jerry Jones wanted to shake hands with him. And it's, I don't know. It's like Poppy. I can't do that. I mean, I've had my experience there. But there are reports that Micah Parsons and the Cowboys now are, you know, at some sort of a standstill where he is somebody that could be in the hopper or available if another team should so choose. And if you're the Colts, you look at it and you go, that is a position where we have chased it for quite some time, and we've been looking for the answer there for quite some time. But they might have the answer now because they have youth. Kwity Paye is interesting because Kwity Paye obviously has had plenty of time to show out and has not done so with any consistency. But I do think still that I think he's a very good player. Is he a great player? No. Is he a game changer? No. Is he the kind of guy that offensive lines look towards and they start shaking in their boots? No. But he is a guy that, especially if Latu is creating havoc as well, that I think can get to the quarterback and get some plays. And then you have, we talked about yesterday just their front line in general. I think there's some stability there. But having said all of that, last night I think it was, and again, was Latu finally getting that first step, finally getting the moves, finally getting himself in position for the first time with stability, or was he going up against an offensive line that was struggling? Which way, chicken and egg here, right? Do we say the pass rush was elite in camp yesterday at night practice, or do we say the offensive line was wavering? You can go both ways with it, right? But you would rather, again, see that out of Latu than not. And that's another interesting. I have no idea how realistically Micah Parsons would be and how realistic it would be that he is available. But you would, if in fact he was available, he is, I think, somebody that could intrigue Chris Ballard. But I go back to, I don't know that this is a team right now that you make mortgaging of the future moves towards because they are not a player or two away. Now, I mean, they certainly can be competitive, and I think they will be competitive and can be divisionally competitive. But in terms of are they right on the cusp of a Super Bowl, I don't think. The division, yes, but again, they're playing in the division that is the junk drawer of the NFL, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. By the way, Eddie, since I mentioned today, there's a guy walking past right now in a UC San Diego T-shirt. He'd be the first to tell you. UC San Diego dad, he's walking past, he gives me the thumb. Sir, this weather out here is just like San Diego, is it not? He just nodded his head. See, Eddie, I'm telling you. you think that I make this stuff up.
You think that was a pity?
About the fact that it's like nod? This in San Diego.
Yeah, man.
I will say this.
Just shut up and leave me alone. I'm trying to enjoy the state fair.
Yeah. He was moving briskly, and I will say his stride did not slow upon my yelling at him. he continued to move briskly. He did not necessarily acknowledge in any way, shape, or form the fact that I was calling him out for that. Although he did give me a thumbs up on the UC San Diego shout-out. It's perfect out here. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. You cannot ask for better weather. The temperature is, especially considering it literally, 4 days ago, it was 109 degrees outside. And now all of a sudden you come out here, it's perfect. People are coming past. The lunch crowd was there for the dairy bar. There's still a line, 12 deep at each window at the dairy bar, and why not? Because you got everything there, including the key lime pie milkshake.
Do we know when you're serving yet, Jake?
Love everything about it. But, Eddie, I don't. I always do that on a whim, to be honest with you. I just say, I'll be out there. And then we come out, and it's always the kids from Cambridge City Lincoln that I'm serving with. And they're out here today, so maybe I missed my shift.
Oh, boy.
Micah Parsons, Eddie, yes or no, you would have interest?
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL, and that would solidify things along that defensive line. It actually has a threat on the edge because right now, I don't know if, as you mentioned, Paye's been solid.
Would you mortgage, though? In other words, if you got him, does it put you right? Does it push you closer to the doorstep? Or would you rather have the pieces that you would have to give up for him and the financial flexibility that you would surrender in order to get him?
I probably sit in the camp of I'd rather have the assets and the financial flexibility only because we still don't know what Anthony Richardson is at the quarterback position. Is he a franchise guy or not? Like, that's what this season is all up. And had Anthony shown progress and shown some, glimmer of hope that he can become the next face of the franchise, then I would say, yeah, maybe let's go in and let Colts go in and do it. But right now I would probably say no, just because if he goes out and does not have a good year again and doesn't show much improvement at all as a passer in terms of consistencies and decision making, then you want to have all those assets that you can potentially have.
When we come back, Indiana State Fair here on a Friday, and there is another thing that happened yesterday. Big news yesterday. A lot of people asked me about it, and we discussed it a little bit yesterday. And I realize it maybe is more of a business discussion than a sports discussion. But when you consider the fact that it's the biggest sports business in the city, then it merits that discussion. I've gotten a little bit more foundation, a little more understanding, and a little more clarification on everything that happened yesterday with the announcement of Fox, IndyCar, IMS Productions, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And a lot of people have asked me about it, which I appreciate, and I'll kind of let you in on what I've heard or my understanding of it. I'm not going to say that that has 100% clarity, but certainly 100% more than I had yesterday. I'll explain when we come back. At the Indiana State Fair here, opening day, it is Query & Company on the Fan. front of the Dairy Bar. 1 key lime pie milkshake down. We have tickets to give away, do we not, today, Eddie?
We do, Jake. We have 2 pairs of tickets to give away. For,
now,
okay.
Let me ask you this. When you say, and I think I'm with you on this. Pairs is plural, right?
Yes.
So if 2 pairs, so we have 4 tickets that are being divided into 2 different groups, right?
That is accurate.
So is it 2 pair or 2 pairs?
2 pairs.
2 pair. I think I agree with you. There are those that would say that you should say 2 pair. Like that's a pair, meaning 2 of something. But I'm with you. The pair itself is plural. There's more than 1 pair, so it's 2 pairs, right?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, speaking of tickets and events, and that's going to be, by the way, Dropkick Murphys. What is the date on that show?
That is on Tuesday.
This coming Tuesday. Okay.
Yes.
Everwise Amphitheater, The Lawn, courtesy of our friends at Live Nation. I'm going to an event tonight. We're going to some. It's at Scottish Rite, and it's a musical interpretation or rendition of, like with an orchestra, of songs from Coldplay. Now, do I need to keep an eye on the video boards at this?
Just don't take your other wife.
Yeah, that's right. If Emily Longnecker and I went, that would be very scandalous, would it not?
No, because you and Emily Longnecker are married, Jake. It would be if you took like another woman that wasn't Emily or Shannon.
I am not married to Emily, but strangely on the internet, if you Google Jake Query wife, that's what comes up. And Emily's a dear friend, so, but we are mystified by that. Okay, so yesterday the news came out, and let me go back, and I apologize if this is something of which seems redundant, but I've gotten a little bit more clarification and had some discussions with people about this. Yesterday the news came out that the Fox Television Corporation was buying into 1/3 ownership of the Penske Entertainment Group. And I realize people would say, well, what exactly is Penske Entertainment Group? I know who Roger Penske is. I know about the truck rentals. I know that he owns the Speedway. What is the Penske Entertainment Group? When Roger Penske purchased the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and at that time, when Tony George was Tony George approached Roger Penske. And, there are a lot of layers to that onion as to why Tony George ultimately decided that it was time to move on from, and that his family decided it was time to move on from the Speedway. My assumption would be that after the passing of Mary Holman, and I think, and you see this a lot, I mean, I've discussed it with other sports properties, that when you get something like that, of that sort of that high a valuation, in other words, a company or a sports team, whatever it might be, that has that high of a value, the estate taxes upon the inheritance of that company can be devastating. It can be such that it becomes a smarter financial move to sell the entity than it is to pay the taxes to maintain the entity. I don't know factually, but I strongly assume that was the case in the motivation for Tony George and the Holman George family to sell the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So at the time that they were doing that, after the passing of Tony George's mother, it was Roger Penske that he approached. And Roger Penske, in order to buy the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Tony George also, and the Holman George family also owned the IndyCar series. And so they basically said to Roger Penske, and I think it was part of the discussion of the sale of the Speedway is obviously a huge property and a huge value. The IndyCar series was one that was still trying to find its footing from a financial standpoint. So I think inheriting or buying also the risk financially of the IndyCar series along with the Speedway impacted to the favor of Roger Penske the price that he paid for it. And so, therefore, he purchased the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is no concrete number or understanding of number of what he bought it for. Most reports that I think are within the ballpark of accurate are around $350 million. I don't know that factually, but that seems to be a pretty good guesstimate from people that theoretically would know or have an idea of roughly what he paid to become the owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And that also meant that he was the owner of the IndyCar Series. So his corporation started a new division called the Penske Entertainment Group. And at that time, that the Penske Entertainment Group was overseeing the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the IndyCar Series, and then as well, the third division that was owned, that was part of the purchase, which is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Production Company, which is a television production company. It owns TV cameras. It owns and facilitates for the production of television programs and live sports programming. And most of what you see in terms of coverage of the IndyCar Series is produced behind the scenes, put together. The sausage is made at IMS Productions. So Penske Entertainment Group became the owner of all three of those things. When the Penske Entertainment Group, in addition to owning the series, it became a promoter. That company basically started its own division internally of promoting some of the races that didn't have a promoter naturally. The Iowa Speedway is a good example of that. And they did a fantastic job. Penske Entertainment and the IndyCar Series did a fabulous job in partnering with Hy-Vee and promoting that Iowa doubleheader. Ann Fishgren was the one in charge of it and was spectacular. Spent a lot of time at Iowa, connected with the fans there. Hy-Vee, as a sponsor, was bringing in concerts, and it was a destination entertainment weekend for the people in the state of Iowa. And so IndyCar promoting that, and then Hy-Vee got a new CEO, backed out, and IndyCar then was trying to promote it without that corporate sponsorship backing. And I think what happened then is they realized that with all of the other entities that they have, that promoting races was something that they were better getting an outside source to do it. And they began looking for companies they could hire to promote races. That happened concurrently with Fox coming in and saying, look, you guys are trying to promote the race in Iowa. You're trying to be the promoter for the race in Nashville. You heard Tony Stewart yesterday when he was in studio with us talking about being a race promoter and the challenge sometimes of being a promoter. It's not the easiest thing in the world, coming up with scheduling and coming up with marketing and promotion and all of those things. And it's not that IndyCar isn't capable of doing it. It's that IndyCar has people already designed to other areas of things that it became more and more difficult to then focus on that area of it. So I believe what happened and what was explained to me is that this was more an investment than a buy-in. So in other words, Fox essentially, in discussion with IndyCar and with the Penske Entertainment Group, said, look, we're in the market of promotion because we are a television network and a television conglomerate. We are constantly utilizing television and multimedia platforms to promote what it is that we do. Whether you're talking about The Simpsons or you're talking about NFL on Fox, we are consistently promoting things. And the IndyCar Series, I believe, and Penske Entertainment basically said, wait a minute, if you're willing to kind of take over the promotion leg of this and help out with this, one of the areas where we need bolstering, and that would be the finances of it and the finances of the marketing. And so Fox, I think, basically said, we will make an investment into your property because we believe in it. Fox is run currently by a native of Indiana who grew up near JMV, Eric Shanks, who has a passion for IndyCar. And so they, I think, came to Penske Entertainment and said, we believe in what you guys are doing. And we think that you have the formula. We like the racing. We like the personalities. We like the markets you're in. But the one thing that needs bolstering is just the overall promotion and the wide cast net to throw out there to try to lure people into it, especially in an era and an environment where there are a million viewing and entertainment options. So we are willing to assist in and grow that promotion for our own benefit. It's a huge win for Fox if it takes off because Fox is the television partner. And so Fox wants return on investment of, hey, we're going to spend this money to make more money. We're going to spend this money to grow the product. We're going to spend this money to get people to know about the race in Nashville, Tennessee, to know about the race at the Portland International Raceway, to know about the races in Milwaukee. And yes, there are promotional groups Green Savory is one of them that promotes some of the races. But basically what you saw was Fox saying, we want to be one of your promoters, and we're willing to buy into that so that to incentivize us to promote it accurately, we are buying into a 1/3 ownership so that we get a slice of the return on the investment of the promotion of it. And I don't think, at least in the, and this is a question a lot of people have, and I understand the question, I do not believe that in the short term, and maybe I'm naive, but I don't believe in the short term that you are going to see seismic or visible changes to the operations of the way things are run. Now, will it change the race times, or, you know, are some of the schedules going to be catered towards the television aspect of it? Of course. I mean, I would imagine, and that's always been the case, to be honest with you. That's always been the case. But are they going to change the races themselves like they did with NASCAR into stage racing and things like that, like Tony Stewart talked about, to benefit and bolster the in-race television viewing and attracting and keeping your audience more so than in years past? I can't rule that out. But in terms of the infrastructure of it, and maybe I'm speaking now to a nuanced group of people that actually see or feel impact with the day-to-day in the offices and the clerical aspect of the properties, but at least as of yesterday, internally, the discussion was that those things would not see great change. Those things would not be impacted because this was an investment more than it was a buy-in. Fox was not trying to buy decision-making access. They were trying to buy into profit-gaining access. And sure, that leads to the other a little bit. Now, Eddie, I would like for you, because you have the largest cranium of anybody at the station, so therefore I would assume also the largest intellectual capability. I'd like for you to grade A to F on my ability to illustrate that without like getting way too lost in the weeds and speaking way too esoterically to like a 1% that actually understood what I just said.
I'm pretty sure that was a nice solid B+.
Okay, that's cool. I can live with that. You know what's an A, by the way, is the key lime milkshake.
Oh.
The key lime pie milkshake is an absolute A. I'm telling you, everything at the American Dairy Association of Indiana is an absolute A. Here at the Dairy Bar is where we are, right at the opening day of the Indiana State Fair. They got the grilled cheese, they got cheese sticks, they have milk, they have milkshakes. I mean, and the key lime pie shake is the theme this year. Last year, you heard Brooke Williams say that last year the highest selling milkshake was the blueberry. I should have asked Brooke, because last year the blueberry shake was the specialty shake, and it unseated chocolate for the #1 seed now. And I should have asked her if that means they brought it back on the menu this year. It would have made perfect sense, wouldn't it, Eddie?
It would make perfect sense. Now, you need to ask her about the daily sales to figure out which day they made they were most profitable and figure out if that was the day that you were serving.
Also, well, that goes without saying. It goes without saying, right? I mean, the line wraps around the place. You can tell. When I'm serving at the Indiana Dairy Bar, you can tell because people say, like, yeah, the line was backed up for the Ferris wheel. So, no, that's not for the Ferris wheel. That's still the milkshake line from the query window. And Derek Schultz is there, too. But unless last year he forgot the step stool, so you couldn't tell that he was there. But when you come to the window, people knew I was there. They had the big sign out front and everything. Colts last night practice at Grand Park under the lights. Kevin Bowen going to join us 2 o'clock to talk about that. It was a practice that there was a lot to love about it. And you know what? I thought it was cool afterwards when Kevin posted a video on the station website or on the social media account for the station. And in it, he was, you could tell actually that he was like, this is cool. You know what I mean? You could tell that he enjoyed it. And there's something about, and it's, I know that they have had late afternoon practices, and they've had practices that have gone into the non-daylight hours, which is good, especially in the heat. But that was a truly under-the-lights, like Friday Night Lights type feel, even though it was Thursday. And then afterwards, it was cool to have the fireworks followed by the light show and, you know, for Jim, you know, in the light show that they did, the drone light show. It was very cool. And I think it's the best thing about it, I totally understand this. You know, the Colts are a beloved part of this community. Obviously, it goes without saying. And During the Pacers run, I was saying that, the Pacers are this town's birthright child, and the Colts are the one that's kind of like the adopted child. And that's not to say you love the adopted child any less. Don't misquote me there. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it obviously is one that has history elsewhere, but it kind of doesn't now. I mean, they have obviously been in Indianapolis longer than Baltimore, and you haven't. And this is what you aspire for with any franchise. What you want with any franchise is you want generationally now for people to know no different than that franchise being here and being viable. And you now have, let's face it, anybody mid-40s and under has known no different than the Indianapolis Colts. And you want for them to then have their kids fall in love the same with that franchise because they saw the same level of competitiveness, the same excitement, the same, anticipation each year that you saw when you were a younger person. And part of how you do that, and I understand and I respect that not every fan, not every family, not every fan base can afford the increasingly rising costs of NFL games. I mean, it's expensive. Going to the NFL, going anything. Somebody last night mentioned, and I thought this has to be wrong. Yesterday, I'm sitting there scrolling, and I see someone mention that they were wanting to go to the Kansas-Missouri football game. Kansas and Missouri, okay? I mean, Kansas and Missouri are big rivals. If you live in Kansas City, Kansas and Missouri is like Indiana-Purdue here. It's a big rivalry. But the football programs are probably the equivalent of the bucket game, right? It's not exactly your creme de la creme. I know Kansas has had good teams lately. Missouri obviously now has had good, they've been a good program. But I looked it up because I thought this has to be a lie. I got on a ticket site yesterday, and tickets for the Kansas-Missouri college football game. Eddie, I'm going to let you look up right now. Go to a secondary market ticket site.
Okay.
And look up for me the least expensive ticket to go see the University of Kansas Jayhawks, who are a top 5 losingest program in college football history. Yeah, I know Gale Sayers went there. I know Tony Sands had a game where he rushed for 406 yards once in the early 90s. I know that, they've had they had that big fat guy that led them to prominence for a year, and then he was like wiping himself with towels and throwing it on guys and got fired. And then, Missouri had Chase Daniel. Kellen Winslow went there. I get it. Missouri's had moments where they've been, pretty darn good. And in particular, okay, give me the Kansas and Missouri. Now, there's a reason I mentioned this on radio in Indianapolis, Indiana. Kansas and Missouri in football. Eddie, first, give me the date when this game is taking place.
It is on September 6th.
Okay, September 6th. Now, is that a weekend night or is that a weeknight?
That is a Saturday afternoon at 3:30 Eastern.
Okay, 3:30 in the afternoon. And this game is taking place. Is it in Columbia? Is it in Lawrence? Or is it in, Arrowhead?
It is in Columbia at Memorial Stadium.
So this is Columbia, Missouri, Memorial Stadium to see the Missouri Tigers taking on the Kansas Jayhawks. It's an SEC Big 12 game, okay? What is the least expensive ticket to get into this pillow fight? This pillow fight between Kansas and Missouri. What is the least expensive ticket?
$243.
That's the least expensive ticket to get into this game.
Yes.
So you want to take two, and that's probably even before fees. So you want to take 2 people to that game. You're looking at $500, right?
Yep.
What's the least expensive lower level seat for this game? Kansas and Missouri.
You're looking at 250-ish.
Okay, so same area. Because when I looked yesterday, it literally they were like $680 a piece, something like that. Ooh. I mean, it was ridiculous. $250 for Kansas and Missouri.
If you want to sit in the end zone, it's $530.
And here's the thing: it's Kansas and Missouri, so you're the only one in the end zone. They ain't coming down near you, right?
We need to talk to Joel A. Erickson about this.
I mean, it's a phenomenon. But my point being, ticket prices, it's expensive to go to things now. And I understand for a lot of families, it's expensive to go to an NFL game. It is not only a financial commitment, it's oftentimes an entire day commitment because it's a day-long event. I mean, you're literally getting up at 9 in the morning and you're going down. And if you're taking the kids, you're not necessarily tailgating, all hours. But it's a long event. And that long event is expensive. And so for a lot of people, if you are wanting, and for the Colts are smart for this. The Colts are smart for taking a situation like that and saying, okay, let's do a night practice and make it as family-friendly as possible with a fireworks show and a light show at the end and everything else to entice people to come as a family and their chance to see the Colts that may not be able to afford so from a financial or a time standpoint in the course of the regular season. And then for the players, it's a benefit because I think that was a flurry of activity that they were doing, and they were literally, those players last night were having moments. Shane Steichen talked about it. A real goal for the Colts this year is to be better in flurry, chaotic, hectic situations. And you saw some of that last night. You saw Liatu Latu rushing the quarterback. You saw Tyler Warren make a great catch. You saw the receivers making plays. And we haven't even talked really at all in this camp about the running game. It's almost like it's just a given that you know that Jonathan Taylor is going to be a great player for them. But they've got a young rookie running back that I think is going to be able to spell him and that people are excited about. You know, there's a lot to my man right here wearing a North Central Panthers hat. I love it. Hail our Panthers. And he stuck his tongue out at me. Come on now. But, you know, the last night I just thought was a cool environment. But it also accomplished on and off field what it is that you want from it. And that's, to me, the thing that was cool. And you could tell, and Kevin's going to join us coming up 2 o'clock, but you could tell absolutely that, you know, people, that Kevin enjoyed it, that Kevin was excited by it. Hey, Jake, college football more than any other sport is driven out of their alumni base. I get it. And I get in NIL, people, you know, I totally get it. There are probably – college football ticket prices have probably gone up twofold. Number one, because they need to, a lot of these programs with NIL now, you truly are talking about return on investment. You are investing above and beyond just scholarships for players. And so that is going to impact ticket prices. And number two, there are a lot of alumni now that, you know, the cheesiest movie, I thought, one of the cheesiest movies ever made. It's like embarrassingly bad. It's embarrassingly bad. And I'm probably in the minority on this. I thought Blue Chips was so bad and hokey and dumb and cheesy. But Blue Chips 30-plus years ago was actually a precursor to exactly where we are now. Because when Happy says to Coach Bell, like, I own you. I bought these players, and I own you. Happy, the fan in Blue Chips, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, it was out 32 years ago. Happy, because he is a rabid fan alum, is funneling money to players, and as a result of that, he feels like it entitles him to an ownership or an access to the program. And I think you're going to start seeing these ticket prices going up because you have alumni that are like, no, you don't understand. Like, I gave that quarterback X amount of dollars, or I made this contribution because you said you needed this recruit, which means I better be at that game. And so the schools know, okay, in that case, then they're going to buy a ticket, or they feel that they need to be there. They feel that they are a part of it, and so they're going to buy into whatever it costs to get in, and that's going to increase the demand for tickets, the willingness of what people are willing to pay for tickets. But it is expensive to go to these events now. Totally. And Kansas, Missouri, $250? I mean, there are two things that are a real buzzkill about that. The first being that you're out $500 if you go as a pair, and the second being that once you get there, you realize you're watching Kansas and Missouri. I mean, come on. This isn't, you know, Nebraska and Oklahoma. I mean, at least there's like tradition there, right? Texas, Oklahoma. USC, Notre Dame, Clemson, South Carolina, I get it. Those are tradition games. Kansas, Missouri, tradition game, except for that the only tradition is the name of the game. Pat Boylan, Fever in action. Fever actually playing well, won 3 in a row, but then we start to ask ourselves the Caitlin Clark question of when and how does she reacclimate within this roster. Pat Boylan will join us other side to talk about exactly that. Opening day, Indiana State Fair, American Dairy Association Dairy Bar. We're just in front of it. Key lime milkshakes are flowing and people enjoying them. Query & Company here on The Fan. Eddie caught me mid-bite. This is fantastic. The smoked Gouda Q grilled cheese sandwich. It's basically on a Texas toast. Got a little pork barbecue in there, smoked Gouda cheese, thick as can be, barbecue sauce. Unbelievable. Dave Sellers is enjoying one. Sienna's here. Kelly is here. Cam is here. Kelly just brought napkins, thank goodness, because that barbecue sauce is a-flowing. So, too, the Key Lime Milkshakes, American Dairy Association Dairy Bar, State Fair. Opening day is where you will find us right now. And joining us now on the guest line, and probably wishing that he was instead enjoying a smoked Gouda Q sandwich, is Pat Boylan, who, of course, you see television with the Indiana Fever. Fever on a win streak. But, again, Caitlin Clark is out, and that is the big question. Pat, I will begin with that, and that is not necessarily to ask you right off the top, so when's Caitlin Clark coming back, but rather the things that Stephanie White or this roster have done to acclimate themselves without clearly what is their dynamic player in Caitlin Clark. But they are playing well, and they have been able to do so based on doing what?
Yeah, and there's no question, Jake, that the Fever need her back to ultimately hit, the goals that they want to hit this season. That's unquestioned. Indiana is playing really well without her right now, but at the end of the day, they still need her as you get closer to playoff time here. But in the meantime, it's amazing to me how well the offense has flowed here lately. They put up 93 in Chicago and then did that even better, one or two times better on Wednesday in their most recent game. And they did so, interestingly, in a game without Caitlin Clark, where Kelsey Mitchell scored just 8 points, and Aaliyah Boston didn't really get going until the fourth quarter. I think you're just seeing this team flowing a lot better, gelling together. I don't know that it's one massive significant thing. I think it's just the process of having time and cohesion and chemistry kind of locking into place. The challenge with this season not only has been not having Caitlin Clark, but it's that there's been no ability to gain any sort of rhythm or stability. They played, 4 games with her and then 4 games without her, and then 5 games with her and 5 games without her. So not only is it a challenge to not have your best player on the floor, but it's a challenge to try to figure out your identity and gain chemistry. And I think you're just seeing things start to lock in and flow a whole lot better. And when you consider that they put up 107 points, which is the third most points they've ever scored in the history of the franchise, if you would have said that was going to happen this year, you would have said, I bet Caitlin Clark had 25 points and 15 assists, and Kelsey Mitchell went for 30. No, Clark's not on the floor. It was a rare off game for Mitchell, who's otherwise been on a tear here the last month plus, which in general, the answer to your question, Kelsey Mitchell's play, I think, has been really significant. But, in their most recent game against Phoenix, I just thought it was really noteworthy how well they played offensively without Clark, without a massive performance from Kelsey Mitchell. And Ari McDonald stepped up in a big way, but I think you're really starting to see the chemistry come together, which this group just hasn't had any consistency or lineup consistency all year.
Speaking of chemistry coming together, I noticed last night the radio play-by-play voice for the Pacers, Mark Boyle, posted a photo of the annual Pacers radio dinner that you guys do. It was Mark Boyle, it was Scott Finstamaker, also known as Cookie, who is the engineer for you guys. Eddie Garrison was there, yourself and Mark, and it was at Mama Carola's, I believe he said. Who bought?
Mark buys for those. Mark always buys.
Outstanding. And so did Eddie take home seconds?
Eddie was very well behaved. I'll give him credit. He ordered politely. See, that's the thing. Mark gives you the ability to order whatever you want. And sometimes it's at, a place like a steakhouse where you can really run up a high bill. But Eddie was gracious in his order.
Okay. I know when I was a kid, my dad would always say, order whatever you'd like, just make sure you eat it all. Okay, fine, And I was a bottomless pit from like age 11 to 15, so that was all good. Pat, the schedule itself, Eddie and I talked about this earlier, and I want your input on it. When you look realistically at the Fever schedule, and we talked to Stephanie White about this, it is, it's challenging between now and the 17th. There is no time where they have, I think, more than 2 days off between games, or 3 days off between games between now and the 17th. They really pack them in, and it's compact. And Stephanie White talked about the importance of not necessarily just an airdrop in of Caitlin Clark, but several practices to get going. And obviously with that schedule, you're going to have some days off from practice. Does that mean, especially if they're able to keep things going the way that they are right now, that they could perhaps push it into the 17th when they then get 5 days off, and that would be a proper time to reacclimate?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think everything you're saying makes a lot of logical sense. I just don't have any idea, frankly, and I was actually listening to Stephanie on your show a few days ago to try to see if she would drop any Easter eggs or any hints, and as you know, she didn't. But, I think the one thing you said there is important, and it is the one thing that I believe ardently in this process is that they're going to bring her back and give her plenty of time to practice to get there. So that's going to be your key to knowing she's getting closer is, okay, she's practicing. She's attempting and getting on the floor and getting involved in numerous practices. I think that's going to be your sign that she's getting closer. And, whether or not the team playing better, at least right now, hopefully that's still the case when we're talking in a week or two, maybe that makes things easier. Maybe that makes you feel like you don't have to press to push Caitlin back, but I don't think the franchise was going to do that anyway. I think even if, the team was really struggling, they've got to get Caitlin Clark back at 100%, and they need her to be able to play the rest of the way when she comes back. Now, with injuries, you can never guarantee that, and you never know what's going to happen here, but when she comes back, they're going to need it to be for the rest of the regular season and through this playoff run, and to not have these 4 or 5 game stretches, and then unfortunately another injury has cropped up. And again, you can only control so much there. I mean, some of this is just frankly bad luck. The Fever have not been aggressive in pushing her back. In fact, the last time, I think they probably could have brought her back a couple of games earlier, and Stephanie White spoke to this, but they decided not to put her on a minutes restriction, to wait until they felt like she could go, a full slate of minutes, and then another injury just crops back up. So I think the good thing is they're more than keeping the boat afloat right now. That definitely makes it easier. Whether it changes the timeline or not, I don't know. But I do think you're going to be tipped off to when she's getting closer by when you start to see her practicing more.
By the way, Pat, I completely forgot, it was not intentional in the photo, that Eddie White was there as well. And I guess the beauty of that is, here's the beauty. If Mark Boyle is paying and Eddie White's there, you might as well order everything off the menu because you don't have to talk. You can just eat the entire time because Eddie White's at the affair, right?
It was interesting because we were, I would say 30 minutes into getting our entrees, and everybody has wrapped up. And I think the quote that Mark said verbatim was, "Eddie, it doesn't even look like you started." So you have that text.
See, this is of zero surprise to me. Like zero surprise, right? And that didn't even and that was without even anybody mentioning Notre Dame and Dan Marino. So I mean, can you only imagine? You know what I mean?
He's got some great stories. I'll give him that.
He does. There's no question about that. Pat Boylan is our guest talking about the Fever. All right, challenge that is created with Dallas, who is next on the schedule. That game tonight, 7:30 tip. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. This is an Ion game, so we don't have it. John Nolan, Bria Goss will have it. I assume Eddie as well on the station right here. So
correct.
You can listen on the radio. Dallas is a really interesting team. They've got a lot of talent, but right now is they're far from a finished product. Paige Beckers is, a lot like Caitlin Clark in that she is drawing a lot of eyeballs. She's a really talented rookie. Maybe not quite at the level that Caitlin was performing her rookie season, but that's an extremely high bar. She's playing really, really well. Arike Agumbawale is, just a bucket getter out of Notre Dame and a really tough player to defend. So they're what I consider dangerous. They're probably not considered good yet, at least, but they're dangerous. And on any given night, they can be really, really challenging. And I look at this 4-game road trip as a whole, and Jake, I think it might be the most important stretch of the schedule here because you don't have Caitlin Clark. You are playing well. You're on a 3-game winning streak. You're 3 games over 500 for the first time all year. You're in a pretty good spot, all things considering, and all the challenges you've had to deal with this year. You're in a pretty decent spot. Can you keep the boat afloat here on this 4-game road trip? And if you can do that, then you're coming home for 3. And those next 4 games, when you come back off of the road trip, are all against teams below you in the standings. So I think it's really setting up for a situation like this. If you can play well on this 4-game road trip, you can come back home. Hopefully then you're starting to think about a return for Caitlin Clark. The schedule is easing up. You're getting more home games. I've made the comparison before, but I really do think there's a potential for the Fever to experience something like the Pacers just did, which is all sorts of injuries in the first half of the season. The team really never gelled all that well, and then once things started to click, they really, really clicked. So I think there's, hopefully an exciting potential to experience something similar for the Fever here, which is why I think this road trip is so important. If you can do well on the road trip, even if you go 2-2, I personally would take that. If you're a player or a coach, you can't think that way. But if you can go 2-2, you're 3 games over, you're in a good spot, you're coming back home, the schedule's lightening up. I think you've got a real opportunity for a strong final push of the season. So I do think starting with Dallas here tonight, you're looking at some really important games on tap.
Pat Boylan, of course, you see him for the Fever broadcasts tonight. You can hear the game right here on this radio station. Eddie Garrison will have the pregame as well. Pat, appreciate it as always. Enjoy the take-home leftovers from last night.
Likewise, Jake. Thank you.
All right, Pat Boylan joining us. We'll come back. We are at the Great Indiana State Fair opening day, American Dairy Association Dairy Bar, and we'll recap for you everything that they've got going on before we talk to Kevin Bowen coming up top of the hour. It is Query & Company. You're listening to it here, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Indiana State Fair is where you will find us. We are just in front of the Dairy Bar to settle that argument, which has been an age-old argument. Is it a bar or a barn? Clearly, it is a bar. They serve beverages like milk, key lime pie milkshakes, chocolate shakes, vanilla shakes. They have grilled cheese sandwiches. They have the fantastic smoked Gouda Q.
Yep, smoked Gouda Q.
Jenny Purcell, did I say the last name correctly?
Browning, but
Browning,
my maiden
that's right.
name is
I
Purcell.
that's how long I've known you, right?
I know.
Jenny Browning, yes, the CEO for the American Dairy Association of Indiana here in the state. My apologies on that, but that's how long we've known each other, right?
We go way back.
So, Jenny, this for you guys, I was talking with Brooke about this earlier. This is for you like the opening day of Colts camp for a Colts beat writer, or for the month of May for me. I mean, this is everything, and we're talking about how many straight days of 12-hour days of serving up all of the fabulous dairy products.
Yes, just like the Colts camp, exactly. So it's 15 days. So
Love
the
it.
Mondays are off, but so we, at 8 o'clock, we start serving food and close at 9. So.
I love it. And, you know, each and every year you guys come up with different menu items. We talked about the fact that, and I'm curious of this, last year the blueberry milkshake, that was the best-selling milkshake that you guys had, right? Did Eclipse chocolate?
It did. Eclipse chocolate. Chocolate's always the favorite, but this first time, I know the mint cookie kind of was up there for a couple years back, but blueberry blew everybody away.
Do you know the difference between myself and that milk, the mint chocolate that you guys had? Do you know the difference between it?
What?
It was rich.
I'm
not.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I'm curious.
That's nice.
The blueberry, so did you guys bring it back?
We did not. So we didn't bring it back. We tried the mint cookie, that brought it back for the second year, and it did not sell. So I think it's just the exciting factor, something new.
Sure.
People like it, and then you bring it back, they go back to the chocolate. They go back to their favorite, or vanilla or strawberry.
But this is obviously a staple at the State Fair. And one of the things that I think is great about it is the fact that you have different schools that are involved in the serving within. But, Jenny, in addition to that, I think it's important because you get a chance to kind of, especially with young kids, not only let them know the value, the nutrition of milk, but in addition to that, facilitate and make it possible for some kids that otherwise maybe are in situations, financially speaking. I know the Great American Milk Drive, you know, there are consistent efforts, are there not, to make sure that all kids are getting that balance.
Absolutely. So again, right now we have Lincoln Athletics here at the Dairy Bar, and we have different groups that come here, and then we help staff the Dairy Bar. So they usually bring 40 plus people with them, and they help us out, and then we give a donation in return. And then when we have different celebrity servers like yourself, which I don't think we've set a date for you to come serve, any donations.
I usually just come down and demand it. I don't even set a date. I just show up, right?
That's right. Well, you have a back pass where you could just do that. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
No, you know, and one of the things that, and I love it, I was talking earlier, Jenny, about you just need to set each year different little things that become highlight traditions that are benchmarks to kind of get you through to the next couple of weeks, like on your calendar of just life in general. And this is one of them for me. I love it. I love the fair. I love walking around. And I love working and serving up the usually 1.5 foot tall milkshakes. I'm very good at my ability to make milkshakes. But I mentioned this to Brooke earlier. I've done this now like 6 straight years where it has been Cambridge City Lincoln High School have been the kids that are in there with me. Do they commute from here? They don't live here, right? They actually
commute. Yeah, they don't live here. They're not sleeping in the top of the storage of the Dairy Bar.
Right.
They actually commute. So they meet in the morning, and again, that's whoever the leader is. Right now we have Coach Klein that's kind of leading the group, and then they come over here, they work all day, and then they commute back.
Can you say the name of the establishment again, please?
The Dairy Bar. It is the Dairy Bar. However, I will play both sides.
No, it's a bar. Thank you. Dairy Bar. There you go. It is the Dairy Bar. That is the end of the discussion,
okay,
right?
Yes.
Obviously, when it comes to the world of sports, we've talked about this before, but the American Dairy Association of Indiana is forever linked to the greatest sports tradition in the United States, in the city of Indianapolis, in the milk tradition. And this year, I thought it was super cool, even though I get it from a photographic standpoint. But you got to give a lot of credit to Alex Below because he did not dump the milk.
He didn't. Nope, he didn't. You know what? Well, we love it when they take big gulps, and also to the feet. Like, he basically was sharing it with his whole family, so we'll take that over the dumping, yes. So, but at least a couple gulps.
He also, Brooke had mentioned this earlier, Alex Pillow had requested, I don't know if he'd requested ahead of time or if it was spontaneous, but facilitated for his young, I believe it's daughter, infant daughter, right? But young child, to get milk. And so
Yep.
will that be a new tradition for winners that have children?
They definitely can. So we always have a comment, like a comments area. So they just happened to start, I think once they, the drivers, they all are in line together and kind of have that camaraderie. They just started writing in the special requests. So some of them put some requests that we could never fill, or some of them are funny, and some of them are like, I just, for a little bottle for my child.
I mean, it's pretty cool. Right?
That is pretty cool. We'll do that all day long. And some of them put buttermilk. Some of them put chocolate milk. So, yeah.
It is a great tradition. So, too, is this, being at the Dairy Bar,
Yep.
right across from the Coliseum at the Indiana State Fair. Again, 9 until 9 every day, right?
9 until 9. Yep, and we do open a little bit, like one window, but 9 until 9, and we'll be churning out the milkshakes and grilled cheeses, and I think about 50,000 grilled cheeses, about 70,000 milkshakes through the 15 days.
Glasses of milk, too? Right?
Glasses of milk, yep. We keep it cheap, 50 cents for a glass of milk. So,
what's your favorite thing about the fair, aside from obviously what you guys contribute, but when you walk around?
When I walk around, honestly, the energy of an event like this, to where it's really kind of unifying. The people come out to enjoy. So there's something for everyone. So whether it's the strong man or the circus now or the animals, the food, and everyone has their, I guess a little bit like the Indy 500, that everyone has their own tradition or
Correct.
the things that they do. So I just love that part of it.
It is pretty fun. Now, do you ride the little people ride thing here?
I have done it, yes. I like it. It's peaceful. So on it's a busy day and you want to go out, you can ride right over all the people, and it's really quiet over there. Yeah, yeah.
Now, you know who's afraid of that? It's Derek Schultz. He won't do it.
Derek, well,
Won't do it.
but safety first.
He's kind of whittle, and so like it's the bar.
Poor Derek.
You know what I mean? I
Derek,
think
we love you.
There's a health risk there, I believe, right?
Yeah.
All right, so 9 a.m., 9 p.m. every day. At the Indiana State Fair, you can get your grilled cheese. You can get cheese sticks.
Mozzarella sticks.
Mozzarella sticks,
Yep.
A little of everything, and it's fabulous. And again, key lime milkshakes this year. Just a subtle taste of that key lime pie, which is great.
That's right.
Had one earlier already, so that's the first of like the 20 that I'll have over the course
That's
of the
great. Well, yeah.
And when I'm serving, if you don't mind, I'm going to make them 2 feet tall.
I love it. You can do it as long as it doesn't fall on the customer, and then they don't.
We've never had that happen.
Well, there you go.
I'm solid at it.
Jenny,
it's a pleasure as always. I appreciate you having me out, and it is. I talk about traditions a lot. This is a great tradition.
Well,
I love being out every single year.
We would love to have you. You're part of the family.
Appreciate that. Jenny Browning, as you know, cow was my first word.
I know.
Jenny Browning, and listen, there have been plenty of them since. I can assure you that. Jenny Browning is the CEO for the American Dairy Association of Indiana. When we come back, we'll recap what happened last night at Grand Park in Westfield. Kevin Bowen joins us. Other side, Query and Company on a Friday here on The Fan. Okay, you had to do it, Eddie. Pam just came up to say hi. She introduced herself as female listener number 13. And I said, well, we only have 24 of them, so you're halfway. She is halfway through the inventory. So, Pam, much appreciated. Enjoyed the great Indiana State Fair, which is where we are, right in front of the Dairy Bar. We now have it officially from Jenny Browning, the CEO of the. If you got an issue with me calling it a bar, not a barn, take it up with the CEO that runs the place, right? She's got the key. You got the keys to the place, right? Yeah. Those aren't barn keys, are they? Barns don't have keys. That's why people leave the barn door open. See, that's more proof it's a bar, right? Bar keys is a term, is it not? Yeah, see, there we go. Settles it even more. Kevin Bowen going to join just a second from now. I do want to say I'm sitting here doing the show, and this is one of the things I love about this fair and this venue. You know, growing up here as a kid and coming to the state fair, and I think people know that I have an appreciation of nostalgia and history and just the culture of Indiana. And I have an appreciation for its people as well. And I'm sitting here doing the show, and I look over, and walking up is one of the true giants of not only our industry, but that I've had the pleasure to have worked not necessarily with, but in the same building. And I don't know. Bob Jenkins, I have always said, is the one person that has the greatest disparity between his level of accomplishment and his understanding of his rank, because he was so incredibly humble, Bob Jenkins, and is fondly remembered by those of us whose lives were touched by Bob Jenkins over the course of his time here. But in addition to that, maybe it has something to do with the first name, but one of the real true gentlemen and an absolute legend and giant and icon within our industry that came by to say hi, and I just love it more than life itself. Bob Kavoyan came by just a second ago, of course, legendary member of the Bob and Tom radio show that, yeah, sure, still on as a rival in this market in terms of the station that it's on, but there just could not be a more gentle, a kinder, more loyal, and, you know, at the time that when Derek and I were doing the radio show and we're in that building, Bob Kavoyan treated us from day number one like we had been his contemporary for 30 years. And neither one of us will ever reach the level of a fraction of accomplishment within this market that Bob did. And, you know, came over, said hi, looked great, sounded great. He and his wife Becky were out enjoying the fair. And that's the thing. Those are the things that I love about being out here. I love when people come up and say hi, and I love when you get to see somebody who is as dear and as important to not only me, but to so many people as Bob. Kevin Bowen joins us now on the program. Last night I thought it was very cool, Kevin, in the fact that after the Colts practice, you posted a video recapping it, and I could tell that you had kind of an appreciation for what you'd just seen, in the fact that before we get to the football aspect of it, I just thought it was a cool, you know, seemingly cool atmosphere, cool environment, and fun for fans to be able to go out and enjoy.
I'll start here, going from Bob Kavoyan to Kevin Bowens, like Peyton Manning to, you know, whatever I would look like at quarterback. So I'll try my best to, you know, take that torch. But, yeah, I thought last night was awesome. I thought if you were at Grand Park, I thought you got great bang for your buck. I thought it was one of the more entertaining practices, frankly, I've ever seen. Just a ton of 11-on-11 activity. They threw the ball around the yard and some big plays. And then you had a really fun fireworks show, little light show in the skies of Westfield. So I thought it was really well executed. And I know I've probably said this before, but I think the Colts just do such an outstanding job of training camp. Teams just don't do this anymore in the NFL, and it's a great facility up there. It's easy to get to. There's plenty of parking. It's super affordable. Teams just don't do that anymore. So, yeah, I thought it was an awesome night up in Westfield.
Okay, I'll give you, Kevin, the pick here. I'm looking at a guy in a Pacer shirt. Maybe they got Colts currently on the roster, or players that people are going to want on the Colts roster. We're going to discuss both. Which one do you want to lead with?
Let's go with the latter.
Okay, players that people would like to see on the roster. I'll begin with not the one you think I'm going to ask about, and that's Micah Parsons. 52.5 sacks, 26 years old, two-time, Pro Bowler, All-Pro player, Defensive Rookie of the Year, coming out of college, and apparently things are getting icy in Dallas. Now, something might have happened this afternoon since I got on that I'm unaware. And by no means have I heard any connection to Indianapolis and Micah Parsons at all. But if he is a player that is suddenly made available, is he one that, A, the Colts would take a look at, and B, is it possible that the Colts internally are starting to see glimpses of the fact that he might not be necessary?
Well, I mean, I think it's very premature to say the last part just because Micah Parsons has done it on Sundays, for several years now. I obviously a player like Micah Parsons could do wonders for your football team, but given how the Colts typically operate, I would venture to guess it would be a no. I don't want to act like Woody Pay and Laiatu Latu and JT Tuimoloau would create a situation where we feel like that we're good in this situation. I just when you think about draft tech compensation, you think about how much money it would be, you think about the realistic nature. I don't foresee that. I guess being realistic is probably where I would go more than anything. But yeah, if they can get one of, especially Latu or Pay, who I thought had really good nights last night, particularly Latu, if they could get either of them to even sniff, half of what Micah Parsons has done so far, that'd be really the best edge rushing season they've had since Robert Mathis hung it up.
The latter part of Latu, I do feel, Kevin, pretty good about, because when I look at a year ago, and I know that because of where he was drafted, because of the praise at which he was drafted, the first defensive player drafted, people expected pop-out numbers right away. But even if you look at, well, for that matter, both Freeney and Mathis, that's a position that I think the timing takes a while of just knowing, jumping a route or learning a move, that kind of thing. I think sometimes it takes a year or so. Aside from the obvious, which is he was at the quarterback, what looks different about Latu than, say, a year ago in terms of, comfort level or even just the way in which he's playing?
Yeah, I don't think there was, massive, body, like a serious focus. Hey, I'm going to gain X amount of muscle or lose X amount of what. I don't think there was either that from year one to year two. I don't know how much he would admit this, but it felt like he hit a rookie wall last year. I think if you look at the last handful of games, it just wasn't near the same sort of production that he just produced in the first 10 or 12. And, obviously going from a college season, which is right at 12, to the NFL season, which is, 17, that's not the most shocking thing in the world. So, is it from whatever conditioning standpoint that maybe he can get to that mark? I thought what was impressive, from him last night is, he beat Braden Smith several times. And, at UCLA, he showcased the ability to rush from both sides. That's not, a given when you get a lot of these college rushers. They might just be, hey, I come off the right side or I come off the left side, and I don't really have a whole lot of counters if you flip me over, whereas Latu seems to have a little bit of that ability. So, I think that's got to be attractive to Lou Anarumo. And again, I thought he had a really productive – it's hard in some of these scrimmages for the pass rush to really, finish plays, but I would say he had probably 3 sacks blown dead, and you're talking 3 sacks and probably, 20-ish snaps, maybe a little bit more than that. I mean, that's a big, big number when you think about kind of a normal game.
The other player not on the roster whose name is going to be floated about, Kevin Bowen, our guest, by the way. You hear him every morning from 7 until 10 on the Fan Morning Show along with James Boyd and Jeff Rickard. So, Kevin, the other name is obviously that of your high school in terms of a product, Terry McLaurin, who in Washington is in the final year of a deal that would pay him $15.5 million. Obviously, because he has requested a trade, maybe that is simply a contract negotiation move by Terry McLaurin, but if he were to be moved to a franchise, one would assume that it would be with the understanding that you also are going to be able to sign him and get him beyond just a one-year rental, unless he is a final piece player for somebody, and I don't think the Colts are a player away. Your assessment of that conversation and talking point?
Yeah, I think the Colts are very, very high in their wideout group right now. There's certainly been many years, I'd argue almost all of them, in the Chris Ballard era where I don't think that statement would have had a whole lot of merit. But, last night, you could probably see a glimpse of that. Arguably one of the better players in the field last night was A.D. Mitchell. He's your 4th wideout. So, I kind of look at, Michael Pittman Jr. in a pseudo-contract year, Alec Pearson in an actual contract year. What exactly is that going to look like? And there's no way, I guess, to say this without it sounding like a shot at Terry McLaurin, because he has had a hell of an NFL career so far. But it's wild to see how that age 30 for NFL wideouts seems to be such a falling off a cliff for so many guys. And so if you're the Colts, you're going to sit here and say, well, we love our wideout group, but we're going to give up draft picks and whatever, $30 million to pay a 30-year-old plus wideout when, again, Pierce is a free agent. We'll see about Michael Pittman Jr. Obviously, McLaurin's been better than those two, but I just don't, I actually don't think the urgency maybe is as, wild as it has been before at receiver. I'm curious to see how things will play out for Terry McLaurin. It's a really unique situation. I don't think you see this too many times in the month of August. And how is it going to go over the next month or so with a team that many are probably thinking can make a run again in the NFC there. So yeah, shockingly, I just don't view why. I think there are other positions in the team where maybe you would look at it and say, yeah, maybe there is a little bit more of a heightened interest there, but I think internally they still feel really, really good about where they're at wideout.
The wideout position, Alec Pierce, obviously the name that comes to mind when you're talking about contractual things. Where do you think things stand on that, Kevin? Do you think that's one of those that just it's kind of an automatic and he gets re-signed before the end of the year? Or do you think Alec Pierce, without necessarily saying it, may be looking at a place where he can get more quarterback consistency?
Yeah, I think definitely the latter. And just in general, what does the NFL market think of him? He brings a trait that is really rare, and that's the ability to take the top off the defense. He led the NFL in yards per catch last year with obviously very mediocre quarterback play. So I could see him getting to some, maybe a surprisingly big deal. And, I actually posed this question to Rick Venturi earlier in the week when we had him on of, again, Michael Pittman Jr., he will be in the Terry McLaurin age range, contract range next offseason. Now, again, he's not the player, but end of the second contract, signed a 3-year deal. The thought is get back to free agency for a third time and really cash in. And so, I kind of posed the question to Rick, just, hey, would you rather have Alec or would you rather have Michael Pittman Jr.? Two very different players. And, I think he pretty much said he would rather have Alec Pierce, and he looks at it obviously through a lens of, hey, what strikes fear in me as a defensive coordinator? Well, I can live with Pittman having, 7 catches for 72 yards in a game, but if Pierce pops off a couple 30-yarders, boom, the game's changed. So that is one that I think is a great debate and one you could definitely have. And, A.D. Mitchell's arrival, emergence, however you want to describe it, I think will certainly factor into things as well. But, yeah, Pierce is going to be due a big, big payday, and I can kind of see probably more from his camp not wanting to necessarily jump at a contract extension if the Colts did present him with one. I know he, again, has been a small catch guy in terms of pure numbers through his first 3 seasons, but, league-wide, if you don't have that element to your offense, but you feel like you have a quarterback that can tap into more of that, that'd probably be pretty attractive on the open market.
The A.D. Mitchell emergence that we have seen, Kevin, has that stayed now as the norm, or did he have kind of a breakout and then go back to being A.D. Mitchell?
I guess so far in camp I would describe Mitchell as super inconsistent, borderline bad the first 3 or 4 days, several drops in team sessions. And then I thought this week he was much better, particularly last night. Like, earlier in the week I think some of the stuff he did was a little bit more in kind of one-on-ones or 7-on-7s. But, for those that were there last night, you saw him down the field make a couple big plays. There was a throw that Daniel Jones had that I thought Jones was simply throwing it out of bounds, and Mitchell was able to get a toe tap down, and boy, that was close, but I'm pretty sure the officials ruled it as a catch there. So again, in a team setting, much more from him, which, that's the issue. It's like, he gets open, but then you target him, and you might as well flip a coin, and you might have a better success rate than thinking he's going to come down with a catch. So, I think now you kind of look forward to, okay, what's next week? He's been really bad and really good. What about against an opposing team, joint practice, preseason game? And then if you want to spin it forward, if he does start to show more and more promise, how do you factor him into playing time? how much does he cut into Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce and a little bit of Josh Downs as well? So, obviously, it'd be a great problem to have, but we'll see how the rest of August plays out.
Tyler Warren last night had the catch of camp. True or false?
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, I'd say one of the best catches I've seen in training camp, period. Yeah, I felt bad for Jalen Carlisle as a linebacker in coverage. I'm like, dude, you did everything you could have. When Jones threw it, I was like, this ball is going to go over Tyler Warren's head, and you overthrow somebody in the middle of the field, and you're probably getting picked off like 50% of the time. So, yeah, that was – I mean, for a tight end to have that type of body control and, I mean, literally tip the ball up with the left and haul it in with the right, a ball fall into the ground. And, again, Carlisle was all over him. Yeah, definitely easily the best catch of Colts camp this year, and I'd say one of the better ones I've seen in a while.
Kevin Bowen, our guest. I am live, by the way, at the American Dairy Association of Indiana's Dairy Bar. Great Indiana State Fair. Today is the opening day, 9 until 9. Their hours for each day, except for Mondays, of the fair, where you can come and get, amongst others, the key lime milkshake or all of their grilled cheese offerings and the other dairy products. Okay, Kevin, you mentioned right there the linebacker position. That's one that we haven't talked as much about. I mean, it's certainly this show we haven't, and I think in general – the coverage of the Colts has been so hyper-focused, understandably so, on quarterback, and then as well, just keeping an eye on those receivers. The cornerbacks, the defensive backfield, we'll get to that. There's, you got to go now with depth there, and Chris Ballard dipped into his Rolodex in that regard. But let's go to linebackers because we have not talked a lot about it. Your overall assessment of that group so far through camp?
Well, it's rather incomplete just because, here we are 7 days into it. We've yet to see Zaire Franklin. I don't know if the worry meter is super high, but I don't think it's ideal that the quarterback of your defense is yet to have practiced. He's been out for, I guess, about probably 3 months at this point. I want to say he had that surgery in kind of early May, and Shane Steichen said that he should be back this week. So I don't know. It feels like maybe that could be happening a little bit later this week. So, yeah, that's probably worth pointing out for last night. Yes, the offense had plenty of fireworks, but you could argue they were missing their best defensive lineman in DeForest Buckner, their best linebacker in Franklin, and then their best cornerback in Travarius Ward. A guy by the name of Joe Bocci has been, I think, pretty good, number 48 for those that have been out there. He came over from Cincinnati. Kind of sounds like a World Series of poker player. I feel like they'd pan to table 6. Here's Joe Bocci here, and he's got the sunglasses on and everything.
To me, that sounds like a closer for the Minnesota Twins.
Sure.
I don't know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that. So yeah, mostly a special teamer in his career, but he's gotten a little bit of chance here defensively and has made some plays. Cam McGrone, the LC product, he is factored into some things. So again, it's a group that does not have a lot of resume. The deeper you get in the depth chart, even Jalen Carlisle, who's a starter, has not played a whole lot. I mean, he was a rookie last year and a 5th-round pick out of Missouri. So that's a position group that I do think you have some more. I think it's a position group the Colts largely don't really care about, though. I think if you're going to rank the position groups on the team, they just don't view it in the same light as some others, which I can get. And in today's NFL, you probably don't play as many linebackers as you used to. But, yeah, Franklin is probably the one. For the most part, it's been a rather quiet injury camp, but his lingering status continues. And a guy that really has not been hurt much at all in his Colts career.
When you just mentioned injuries, obviously at corner, you got Jalen Jones at corner that has the hamstring issue. Juju Brents also has been dinged up. Yesterday, and I know you don't read a lot into this, but they did go out and kick the tires, did they not, on a couple of veterans at corner. They looked, in what way would you assess that position, albeit an incomplete last night, based on those players?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think it's fair, Jake, to read into something. I mean, anytime a team signs, they actually just signed another corner a little bit ago. So they've signed 3 corners in the last, 24 hours, and I think they maybe cut 1. So, yeah, I mean, last night they had 3 of their top 5 out. I'd probably label Travarius Ward number 1, and then, Jones and Juju Brents probably 4 or 5, something in that range. So, yeah, I mean, clearly, their cornerback depth is going to be tested a little bit here right now, and hamstrings can be very nagging. I think one thing to kind of nerd out a little bit about corner-wise, they did sign 2 corners that are under 6 foot, and both the corners hurt, and Jones and Brents are over 6 foot. So, it's one of those things where Chris Ballard, again, was very stringent at times on that height requirement at corner, but it seems like they're a little bit more open-minded under Lou Anarumo to not be maybe as stringent there. They brought over a defensive backs coach from the Giants and Jerome Henderson. He has history with both of the corners that they signed yesterday. So, obviously familiarity can kind of lead to some things. But, yeah, right now, a week into camp, and the only real injuries, unless I'm just missing one, obviously you have Franklin is to your 4th and 5th corner. Like when you're talking about the 2 deep depth chart, that's pretty good, especially when you consider some of the teams around the league. So, obviously we'll see how the health continues to play out, but so far it hasn't been too alarming.
Don't laugh at this next question, Kevin. You ready? I've said some pretty dumb things to you, mostly on the air, for that matter, over the course of our time in radio together. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer the question by telling me how dumb a question it is. You ready?
Yes.
Is the quarterback barring injury, is the quarterback competition over?
Barring injury, is the quarterback competition over? Now, I will say you and I chatted for about 10 or 15 minutes pre-show. It's one of the few times I've ever hung up and been like, wow, Jake didn't say anything dumb to me during that phone conversation there. So,
yeah.
That was,
well, but you did hear me getting scolded by a
rating.
cop for going down the wrong way of a street that I thought I was supposed to be going the other way. So, yes.
Well, I thought we were back at the combine when that was happening. I go, oh, no, did he forget his credential again? Is he going to drop, do you know who I am?
No.
Poor cop at the state fair.
Well, you will back me up on this. I was pulling into the state fair, and he was like, hey, man, you're going in the exit. And I said, well, wait a minute. If that's the exit, like your car's parked in it, so I assumed if that's the entry lane, your car's parked in it the wrong way, so I assumed that was the exit. And give him credit, Kevin. You heard it. He actually he was kind of like, yeah, actually, you know what? You're not wrong. Here, let me let you through, right? That basically is how that went down, right?
Yeah, that is is what I
he was
what
cool.
I heard through the phone there.
Yeah, he was cool.
Is the starting quarterback competition over barring injury? I don't know if I'm there with the Sharpie just yet. I don't know. Maybe you can start writing Richardson's name in pen a little bit. I do think Shane Steichen is more open-minded to Daniel Jones than people want to really admit or think.
Okay.
I also feel you can't, and actually was chatting with a colleague last night on the sideline too. We kind of had this similar question of like, hey, what are we doing here? Should we just, should they just name a starter? And like, you can't. If you're going to preach competition for 9 months, are you really going to name a starter before you even face another team in the preseason? It kind of seems to go against like the whole competition, all of that. It's like, well, I'd probably like to see Richardson go against Baltimore and maybe even Green Bay as well, and of course throw in the preseason game. So. I do think Richardson has done a nice job here early on. I don't think Daniel Jones has done anything to be wildly impressive. So I can hear you out, but I tend to think not yet. Whatever. You're sitting at the midterm. If you're Richardson, you feel pretty good, but I think there's still a couple of boxes to be checked.
But Richardson does, at this point, Kevin, he has displayed the things I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though from both an accuracy standpoint and just overall an approach and demeanor standpoint, it looks like Anthony Richardson is showing the glimpses of the signs that we were hoping he would show. Fair?
Yeah. I don't know. I tried to channel probably you earlier this week, and I tried to make an eye doctor analogy of, they ask you to put the spoon over one eye and read the chart.
Which farmhouse is clearer, A or B? Yes.
I swear my hit rate on that's got to be Anthony Richardson's completion percentage through his first couple seasons. But anyways, if you had him do that in 2023, you had him do it in 2024, and now here in 2025, I'd say if you watch film on the first week of camp, each of those 3 films, you would say that this year is the clearest. This year you feel like the vision is better. Now, by no means is it 2020, but it's been clear. It's been a little bit better from an underneath route standpoint. And the same could be true for Daniel Jones. I don't think either of them have had a ball picked off in the last 3 practices. and I don't remember too many like interceptable balls. Like, hey, DB was right there, just dropped it. So that is definitely not what has happened with Richardson in years past. So again, will it translate when you know what gets real? We'll see. But for now, that is a definite difference from the first 2 years of him.
The other thing that is so easy to forget, and I know you're talking about the vision of 2020, but if it's the year 2020, Anthony Richardson was only 18 years old. I think we forget that this is a guy that is still, 23 years old, just turned 23 years old. It feels like by now he's 26 or 27, but this is obviously a guy that's why he continues to get the time where people are like, why are they giving this guy so much time? It's because time was something certainly that he was afforded. All right, Kevin, lastly, before we let you go, and you guys are going to be on the air at 7 o'clock on Monday, you are watching for or looking for what between now and then over the course of the weekend that will be big topics of discussion for you on Monday morning?
Yeah, I mean, does this quarterback arrow continue to point in a better direction? Do we see the 50-50 split continue? They'll go back-to-back days, Saturday and Sunday here, before heading to Baltimore. And then defensively, we just talked about it. Is Zaire Franklin going to make his camp debut? That's probably what I'll be watching for on that side of the ball.
All right, Kevin, appreciate it as always. Enjoy the weekend, all right?
Love me the State Fair. Jealous of you right now.
Love it, man. It's absolutely the best, no question about it. And it's crowded today. And one of the things about the fair, too, so many of the people walking around, and this is what I enjoy because you meet new people as well, not from Indianapolis. I mean, you get a lot of kids here from, 4-H kids and farming kids from rural communities that are being able to display their hard work on display from an art standpoint. I always encourage people, if you're going to come out to the fair, take a stroll through and look at some of the artwork and the sculptures because people that have worked hard over the course of the year, that's a big accomplishment for them and a big honor to have their artwork displayed, and certainly their time and commitment also should be witnessed and enjoyed for some of the talent on display here throughout the state of Indiana. All right, we come back. It's a Friday. We are approaching the bottom of the hour. You know what that means. It means it is time for a feel-good, good for the heart Friday. And we go back to a story that I've told you about before, but it happened again, and it's worth celebrating. I'll explain when we come back to the great Indiana State Fair at the Dairy Bar for the American Dairy Association of Indiana Quarry and Company on The Fan. bottom of the hour, you know what that means. It is a Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday. And I want to, again, thank all of you that listen to the program for allowing me each and every Friday to share just about, cardiovascular heart health. And, again, I realize that it's something that when you tune into a sports show, it's not always what you want to hear. Certainly it's not in any way, shape, or form intended to sound like some sort of a preach lesson to you or any such thing. But I just go back to, I felt at the time and still do feel if I got the chance at overtime here to go ahead, and I had a job at that point, I realized, and that was just to simply try to make people aware of the importance of heart health and being proactive about it. And that means a $49 heart scan from Franciscan Health. Franciscan Health, of course, is number one in the state of Indiana when it comes to cardiovascular care, for cardiac care, from care checks. And they also, you hear them doing all kinds of things around town, different events that we were a part of and have been a part of. They will be proudly involved with, and I say proudly meaning we are proud to have them there, our golf outing that's coming up on the 7th. That is for the Franciscan Health Foundation. They just did a celebration of women in sports during the WNBA All-Star Weekend, the Heart and Hustle Awards, which was very cool to be a part of and to see women honored in their place within sports. And they also, work with me in making sure that we are making people aware of just, for example, the $49 heart scan. It is easy, it is non-invasive, and it's just $49 that gets you a heart health risk assessment where you can get a score to find out just the amount of plaque within your heart. And then in addition to that, if you are at risk of a heart attack, if you do have a blockage, then they will give you that roadmap to helping you work your way through. And you can find out all of the information for that by going to franciscanhealth.com/screening bundles, where you can find all that information. Or as always, you can simply text me and I will get you that information. But each and every Friday, as part of getting people that information of making sure they got a healthy heart, we want to make sure that you know stories around town that also are good for the heart and a feel-good story. And we go back to one of them that I have mentioned on a couple of occasions in doing this, because it has now obviously been more than a year that we've been doing this particular segment on the show. And it's been, probably 20 years ago when I became aware of, and we have talked at different intervals about it, and you certainly know my next guest on the program, the Indy Thunder Beep Ball baseball team, which is, of course, baseball for the visually impaired. And for those that have visual impairment, depending on the level of impairment, there is an equal balance there in the fact that every person playing in beep ball wears a sleep shade so that everybody has equal amount of lack of vision by hitting a ball that is pitched by their teammate that beeps. That's how you know where the ball is coming in when you are the batter. Once you make contact, you run to either a first base or third base device that then begins beeping immediately upon contact, and it is very simple. You get to the base as the runner before the defender finds the baseball, and that is a run. They find the baseball before you get to the base. That is an out. This has been taking place for a number of years with a couple of different Indianapolis teams, and then there is a World Series every year that has teams from around the globe that are participating in the Indy Thunder for, I believe, the 6th time, and he certainly will correct me if I'm wrong in the number of times that they've done this. David Woods is giving me a free massage here. What do we got going on? He's putting a microphone on me. I have a microphone on. We're doing a little video action here as well, it appears. But now joining me on the program, Darnell Booker is the general manager, the all-star, the founder, the president. He is the grand poobah of everything when it comes to the Indy Thunder, and once again is bringing back to Indianapolis a World Series trophy. Darnell, congratulations, man. I'm sure you are still on cloud 9.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me on the program. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk about my team, the organization, and beat baseball. Real quick, I like when you have Debbie Antonelli on and when all that stuff talking about, things with people with disabilities and our good friend Michael Dalrymple, who you had when he went over to Northview and everything like that. It all impels that we just want to have a little seat at the table. I know we're a very, very niche sport, but this is about the community as well, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity and this platform to speak about an amazing season the Thunder had.
Okay, so what number title is this for you, Darnell?
This is our 6th title, and the 6th title that we just accomplished last week was also an amazing feat because we're, I think, the 3rd team in National Beat Baseball Association history to have a perfect season, not losing a game. 26-0.
Unbelievable. Okay, so you're 26-0, and then take me through just the run itself and what you were able to do in terms of where the World Series was and who you knocked off to bring home the 6th trophy.
The World Series took place in St. Louis or Edwardsville, USI, over in Illinois, because there was 2 venues in Illinois, but it was in St. Louis, but the two sites were in Illinois, Caseyville and USI Edwardsville on their campuses. So basically, we like I said, we were fueled. First of all, there's a rankings committee after the regular season, after all the regional tournaments, and the Thunder was seeded number 2 with no losses. So that kind of fueled us very much so. We went through the gamut. We had our pool play. We went 3-0 in there. We played the Lookouts, Oklahoma Lookouts. We played the Lookouts, the Sirens, and the what was the other team? And the Chicago Comets. That was our 3 pool plays, so we beat those guys. Then we played the New York Bombers and then the Austin Blackhawks, starting double elimination play on Wednesday. So the more you win, the less you play. So Thursday, we played our crosstown rivals, the Indy Edge, and it was just a really close back and forth game. It came down to the very end. One of our players hit a game-winning run, so it was 29-28. So we didn't have to. We won that game, so we go to the undefeated game on Friday, and we play the number 1 seed, which was the Philadelphia Fire, and we really crushed them and knocked them off.
You extinguished the fire, right? You put the fire out. That's what you did. You
put
the fire out,
but
right?
It was definitely motivation because they were 1 and we were 2. So we beat them 37-23, and then we play our crosstown rivals, the Indy Edge, because they had to win 3 games to get back to the championship round on Saturday. And it was a nip-and-tuck game, but we edged them, no pun intended, 18-10. And there was our 6th title in 9 years. But like I said, Jake, I appreciate the opportunity for you giving me to this platform because, like I said, we did this for the community.
Real quick to that, I want to ask you about this, and that is simply, and I know you have, different players of varying, skill in terms of their vision and various reasons why some of them are visually impaired. But in conclusion, I wanted you to just speak real quick on what it means to your athletes to have the opportunity to still feel teamwork, to still feel camaraderie, and to still be able to experience community representation despite having something that a lot of people maybe would have packed it in once they got that sort of a diagnosis or that journey.
Well, it means a lot to these guys because they know that gives them the confidence to know that they can be on a team, the leadership, the camaraderie, whether they can get that job or be successful in life, and that's what I'm here to provide as a leader and help them with. And like I said, I coach ages 15 to 55. And it's cutthroat. It's not like Little League or anything like that. You have to earn it. You have to earn it. You got to be dedicated. You got to be at the practices. So it gives them that sense of confidence, and they know that once we achieve whatever we achieve, that they're playing for their families. They're playing for the community. They're playing for the city. No, we don't get paid. No, we don't. We're very, very small in this sport, but it's great to have a seat at the table, knowing that we brought a championship back not only for our organization but the city of Indianapolis. And like I said, you guys, Beat Baseball is very, 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 very good in this Indianapolis, Indiana area. There's 2 teams, the best 2 teams in the world, are right here in the backyard. The Indy Thunder on the north side and the Indy Edge on the south side. We've won, like I said, we won 6 out of the last 9 titles. They won 2 titles in 22 and 23. So we're right there. So I think, like I said, Jake, I couldn't thank you enough to give me the time and to talk on this platform. And I appreciate everything you do for the community and for Beat Baseball and our team. Like I said, I've been knowing you for 25 years. And like I said, keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, I'm just glad to have this opportunity to speak about a sport that I'm passionate about. Thank you so much.
All right, Darnell, appreciate it as always. Darnell Booker and the Indy Thunder winning yet another title. Their 6th, as you just heard him mention. Congratulations. And again, if you are not only a fan of any sport, whatever it might be, maybe you're an armchair quarterback, maybe you think that you are not in a situation where you might have some sort of an issue cardiovascularly, You want to make sure you're on top of that. $49 heart scan from Franciscan Health, franciscanhealth.org or .com, /screening bundles, or simply text me. I can get you all of the information, and happy to partner with Franciscan Health in doing exactly that. Mark Dykton's here, and I just witnessed something that I did not think I would see from a grown man. And so I threw the headsets on Mark, and I'm going to hold up his journey of the state fair with his kids crawling all over the place, because I got to ask what in the hell it was I just witnessed. We'll do it next. Back at the Indiana State Fair, the American Dairy Association of Indiana Dairy Bar. We are just in front of it here at the Indiana State Fair. Apparently, they're doing a documentary because David Woods is filming me here. Okay, so Mark Dykton walking past, and I. Mark, how old a fellow are you?
39.
39-year-old Mark Dykton.
Yes.
Okay. And you're here with your wife and Nora, one of your daughters, right?
The youngest, yep.
Okay. And I believe I just saw you drinking liquid cotton candy. What's going on there?
So that's the Sun King State Fair Special. It's cotton candy flavored beer. It's delicious. It's delicious and nutritious. I don't know about the second part, but it's definitely delicious.
So that's a beer, actually, not just a cotton candy drink?
Yes. Yeah. It's cotton candy Sun King beer.
Okay.
Ashley's got the pineapple whip shake up. That is delicious as well. So, yeah, I'm off the clock technically, so let rain some alcohol. Before we got to go get the kids from school.
You're on the mic.
Well, your wife's driving, I know.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's true. That's right. I got to sober up before 9:30 for IST.
Oh, you're doing Indiana Sports Talk tonight?
Maybe I should keep going.
You just recapping what's going on here? What's going on? Now, David's putting a mic on you. Does he know we're off the air in 3 minutes?
I don't know.
This is going to be the best 3 minutes of content they've ever received, right?
You know it.
Like, hey, they're doing a show from the State Fair. 2:53 to 3 is going to be the best they've done. Bring on the Marconis now, right?
You know it.
Okay, so you're out here. I want to know you grew up in Illinois. This is the Indiana State Fair. Did you ever go to the Illinois State Fair?
No, because I think it was in like Springfield, which is like 4.5 hours south.
That makes sense. You know why, don't you?
Why?
Because that's the capital. Aren't
right.
all the state fairs in capital cities?
You would think so.
I would assume they are.
Yeah.
You never went to the Illinois. So do you like
Never
the Indiana
once.
State Fair?
Yeah, I love it. We've been here every year since we've been down here, I think. So, yeah, got a little food and
Nora
refreshments.
is enjoying the grilled cheese sandwich, by the way.
It's the size of her head.
Well, listen, those grilled cheese are actually they're awesome because they're on Texas toast. That is the smoking Gouda Q, which is or Gouda smoking Q. But it's a smoked Gouda cheese with barbecue sauce.
It's excellent.
It is excellent. So, too, the key lime milkshake.
We got that as well.
What is your favorite ride that you do when you're at the State Fair?
Oh, boy. I try to sit out nowadays since the kids do it. But, yeah, I think any of the, like, twisty rides or the roller coaster or something like that.
Since the kids do it, says the guy drinking cotton candy
That's
beverage.
true. Hey, you know what? You're never too old to have a cotton candy beer. You can have one later. I'll go buy you one. It's right next door.
You can, however, be too young to have a cotton candy
That's
beer,
true.
just so you know,
That's
right?
true.
Please be 21.
It is blue, which is interesting. I've never had a blue beer before.
Do you have a blue tongue? What?
I've never stuck my tongue out at you before.
We'll stop there. we'll stop there. I need to know no further. Trust me. Believe
Please don't
me.
clip that, you two.
Okay, so you don't do rides, you said?
I do rides, but it's mostly for the kids, so, you know.
Oh,
But we do some of them. But
isn't
like
there one, the Angry Mouse or something like that?
Oh, yeah. They like that one a lot. It's like what's it called? Yeah, Cheesy Mouse or something?
I know somebody that went on it one time and it got stuck.
Oh.
Can you imagine? Did you see the other day just at Cedar Point, one of those rides got stuck at the very
that's
top?
the new one. The one that the track connects.
Yes.
That looks terrifying.
And the people had to walk down off of it.
I would rather get stuck on the mouse ride, quite honestly.
No bueno, right?
No bueno at all.
I mean,
I like roller coasters. I would not want to be in that situation.
You know, I mean, listen, and I noticed that everybody, this happens to me when I'm at heights like that, I kind of freeze. Like everything just kind of freezes. Do you miss me in the morning?
I do. Miss your musk? Miss your scent?
Hold on just a second. Hang on. I'd like to let the record state here, for those that are unfamiliar with this program or Mark Dykton, Mark is the producer in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Mark and I worked in the morning for, how long did we work together in the morning? Was it 6 weeks or 7?
It's 7 weeks, felt like 4 years.
Yeah, that's right. So we worked together in the morning, and then when I moved to the midday show. And when I just asked the question of, do you miss me in the morning, I heard a large cackling. I heard a very audible laughter. I heard a gasp of disbelief of an incredulous nature of, I can't believe he even asked that, and then realized that the laughter was coming from your wife.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder what sort of things are being said at home and in private conversation about me that I'm not privy to.
She assumes that we are like office husband and wife, basically. She's like, oh, your husband's calling. I'm like, I guess I'm the wife in this scenario.
No, you have the thrill of being my sounding board on things, right?
That's true. I've got so much audio on you, I could bury you.
What is the most common thing when I call you on the telephone? What's the first thing that I typically say?
2 things, and then it goes on for 40 minutes.
And usually it's about, typically, it's about one of 2 things, right? It's either about something we have upcoming or about Eddie.
Yep, pretty much.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Can you believe that guy? I can believe it. I love Eddie.
Listen to what Eddie did. Eddie, I'd like to know this. When you have to call and complain about me, who do you call?
I don't call anybody. If I have to complain about you, I say it straight to your face.
He yells into a pillow.
Oh, really?
He goes to HR.
That's Donnie Baker, also known as Eddie. It says right to my face. Right?
I got a lot of problems with you, and you're going to hear about it.
Fair enough. Eddie, I haven't heard any of these complaints from you for a while. Are you saving them up?
I don't have any complaints of you lately, so that's why I haven't gone to you and approached anything.
Who would?
How could you?
Now, one thing that you mentioned my musk. You got the first wave of my cologne in the morning, but I was always freshly clean and bathed. Did you not appreciate that?
You were. Kevin Bowen, not so much. He doesn't bathe very often, so you were a nice breath of fresh air, quite literally.
Although you did notice getting strange headaches. Eddie gets strange headaches, apparently, from my cologne. He claims that my cologne is too thick and too heavy.
Well, it's because it's international. That's why.
But my sister's here as well. She'll tell you that I've had that odd musk for years.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
The odd what?
Smell, scent, colognes. I have an odd cologne obsession.
Cologne and watches.
Colognes and watches, yep.
See?
And shoes.
She knows it.
See?
We're related. Can you tell?
I feel sorry.
Mark, what's the rest of the day look like for you, and then what's the weekend look like for you?
Oh, we are hanging out for fair for a little bit. Got to go get the other two from school, and then I'm hosting Indiana Sports Talk tonight, so hang out with me at 9:30 on these airwaves, and then, just kind of taking it easy. Going to a golf outing before we have ours at the station on Thursday, so we'll see how that goes.
Are you a good golfer?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Are you going to be at our golf outing, or are you going to be back in studio?
I will be there after the show.
Okay.
I've been told it's required attendance, so I guess I have to go. It's mandatory.
At 10 a.m.
Yep. So I'll be there probably 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay, that's on the 7th, right?
Uh-huh.
At the Legends Golf Club, 1075thefan.com, where you can get more information on that. Mark, I appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy the fair, all right?
No problem.
It's
hey, I'm going to go
best.
grab a cotton candy beer. Another one for you.
Do that. Okay. I've got my water here. I've got water. Obviously, I've already had a key lime milkshake. I've already had one of the signature grilled cheese sandwiches. They also have mozzarella sticks. They also have milk. They also have milkshakes of chocolate, vanilla, a wide variety of flavors, and they have scooped ice cream as well here at the Great Indiana State Fair at the American Dairy Association of Indiana Dairy Bar, and it is still packed. It is one of the highlights of the State Fair. Going to be a great weekend here, as we talked about. We will talk about and recap all of it coming up on Monday. Fever in action tonight. They are taking on Dallas. That game getting underway. Eddie, your pregame begins at what time?
7:15, Jake, and then they play again on Sunday. So we'll have 2 games
tonight
to recap on Monday.
Okay, so we will recap both of those. We'll also get you caught up on what is an off day today for the Colts, but that is not to say that there will not be a lot to discuss. Preseason will get underway before we know it with the Baltimore Ravens. Last night it was the Chargers, of course, and the Detroit Lions. That's one of those games that you look at it and immediately you're saying to yourself, like, oh my gosh, like, look, what happened to this team? Or this team looks great. Look, it's in a preseason game number 1, you're seeing maybe – you saw Trey Lance, right? I mean, you're getting guys that are going out and getting a second chance at things or trying to work their way into a rotation. And that's the other thing about last night. While last night was spectacular from a lot of standpoints, the Tyler Warren catch, the atmosphere was great out at Grand Park. There were a lot of fun things to like about the Colts yesterday, but at the same time, you have to take some of it with a grain of salt. Was Liatu Latu fabulous last night, or was he going up against a struggling line? Did some of the receivers do a nice job of separation and getting themselves free last night, or were they taking advantage of a depleted defensive backfield with Jalen Jones having injury, obviously, Juju Brent's having injury? I mean, there's a lot going on in that regard, that there's a chicken and egg theory that kind of comes into play there that you have to break down, assess, and analyze. But that's what camp's all about, and you would rather have it, as I mentioned off the top of the show, I'd much rather be scrutinizing and analyzing and trying to break down why Anthony Richardson was playing well as opposed to why he wasn't at all. So you take what you can what you can get in that regard. I just got hit with a huge bale of hay or something.
Whoa.
Did you get that, Cam?
You all right there, Jake? You need some water?
I got the hay fever. I've got water right here, as a matter of fact. But yeah, that was the tractor went by, kicked up a little dust. So, yeah, I'm going to take a swig of water, and I'll hand it off to John in the meantime. So, we'll be back with you at noon on Monday. There goes my water. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you to Pat Boylan for joining us earlier today. Obviously, Kevin Bowen as well. Darnell Booker. Man. All right, now I think I'm officially done with the coughing fit. My apologies. Anyway, we'll be back with you noon on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. And certainly enjoy it if you come out to the Great Indiana State Fair and enjoy a grilled cheese or a milkshake at the American Dairy Bar, not Barn. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you noon on Monday. I'm Corey and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.